It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan.
Are you ready? Dan Fagan and Glen Biegel are here. They're gonna tear it up, rip it down, and shoot it straight. Fagan and Biegel in the morning on Hot Talk, KOAN. And now, Fagan and Biegel.
Well, this is a big week. It's a week that we're all going to be deciding the future of our state.
We'll remember for the rest of our lives.
Well, it's clearly a big week. You know, I don't know what Glen Biegel, Dan Fagan, Bonnie Cameron here. What percentage of would you say the electorate that's going to actually walk into a voting booth? What percentage would you say Glen's undecided at this point?
You mean in any race or in any particular race?
Yeah, just any race. I mean, is there anything you're undecided on?
No, I don't think there's anything I'm undecided on. Well, judges, I still have to work on judges. I promised somebody I'd put something out on judges, so I suppose on that. If you don't know, then you vote no.
I always vote no.
And I did.
Even if I do.
I voted on Friday.
Yeah.
And there was so many people there. It was ridiculous.
Good.
There was lots of people, very busy, and they said that the first day of early voting, they had 800 to 900 people.
Wow. And this is where?
At Division of Elections over off of Gamble.
And so, how'd you vote?
I voted no on all the judges, and I voted yes, no, no, no.
Yes on the Prop 1 AO 37,
yes.
Which is the restoring sensibility to negotiate with unions.
Is it the very last thing on the ballot? I hear you have to flip your ballot over.
Yes,
and
it's
then
very
you vote
strange.
yes.
It says all the ballot measures 2, 3, and 4, and then on the back it says Proposition 1 at the very end. It was very strange.
Yeah.
And it took quite a while. I mean, you know, take your time because especially if you fill in all those judges.
When you read
the
ballot measure on mining, did it seem confusing to you?
I didn't read very much
You
of
didn't
it.
read it? Yeah.
I knew I wanted to vote no, and so I did.
And you voted for Parnell or Walker?
Parnell.
And who'd you vote for Senate?
I held my nose. No, I'm joking.
And your husband didn't vote?
No, actually, the more this race goes along, the more I want Sullivan in.
And your husband just abstained on the Senate race?
Well, he'd have to tell you all that
That's
stuff.
good, though. It makes my vote more powerful.
When
you don't vote, it makes my vote twice as big.
You're assuming he didn't vote.
He didn't vote.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, there was lots of people.
I don't like early voting. I know you're going out of town. You have to, but I don't like this because, you know, a campaign is a campaign. There's
That's
a
right.
beginning, there's an end. And until it's the reason they don't crown the college football championship till the end of the season. Because things happen. You know, they call it a campaign. That's what in college football they say, you know, Notre Dame's campaign for the championship. And it's because you play all the games, you have to go to the bowl game, and then you decide who's the best team. Well, early voting says I'm going to, you know, out of the however long the campaign is, halfway through, I'm going to make up my mind now. What if Dan Sullivan came out and said I'm for, you know, whatever, some crazy thing?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to go out of town, it's different. But I don't like this. All these people early voting.
Yeah, a lot of things have come out, and you know that I would guess Begich has made his 11th hour push, so maybe he's got nothing else to say, and he's going to stay where he is. But yeah, a lot of times things will come out. For instance, the KTUU piece on Parnell and the National Guard situation.
When was this?
It was just over the weekend. I just read it this
I didn't
morning.
see it. You watched it or read it?
Read it.
Okay.
I just don't really know. My guess is 80% of the people were negative on Parnell.
In the story?
No. Just in general, listening to, without any background or without anything else, if you just read the title, you just read, did what most normal voters would do, you'd be 80% negative. Not that 80% of people would have changed their vote, but just 80% of people would have got a very negative reaction.
Based on the story?
No, not this story. All the other stories put together.
Oh, okay,
I'm getting to the story.
Okay.
So anyway, but this story, because they went through lock, stock, and barrel, the whole history of it, what he asked people to do, what information he had, where he was, everything about it. I would say 80% of people will come out of this story and say, I don't know that I've done anything different. That Sean Parnell may have done everything that he absolutely was supposed to do. He was in this boat with all these other people believing this man, Katkiss, the general over the base, and they just didn't know that he was a bad egg.
Story?
KTUU? I don't know. I don't know who on KTUU. But anyway, to me, that story, because that issue is totally deflating at this point, but a lot of people are checking out just because they're not going to vote on that Tuesday, and they're like, well, I've already made up my mind on that. I don't want to remake my mind up because that takes a lot of effort. I have to go back. I thought Parnell had done a horrible job on this. I thought he'd left all these women out there to be raped and that he just was the bad guy, and that was the decision I made. Now I've got to remake that decision, and I've got to go back through everything and sort of rebalance everything. And so you're right. This KTUU piece, to me, completely deflates the issue on the National Guard.
I just sent you the story, Brian. Let's go ahead and play it as soon as you can get it queued up. Grace Jang was a reporter.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news. Good for KTUU. Good for Grace Jang.
Well, look, this is what should happen during the debate if you didn't want, and what had happened on every other one is they would have played Parnell for the first 5 seconds, then Walker for the next 15 seconds, then Parnell for 5 more seconds, then Walker for another 15 seconds. Then it would have had people talking about Parnell and people talking about Walker. Some of this stuff is not political, by the way. I realize that in a political season, you just can't get away from it. But frankly, I want justice done.
Never mind, Byron. It's a 30-minute interview. Is what it is.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
That's
30-minute interview.
Well,
so they actually gave some time to it, and
and they wrote it up.
If this would have been a year from now, it would have been a non-story.
Yeah.
I mean, they're only using it.
Well, look, it is a story. There's no doubt about it. What happened on that base, the fact that we got a general who was either directing or protecting or whatever people who were doing bad things on the base, not to mention the three-headed monster, but the misuse of all the equipment and the shipment of drugs and all kinds of other stuff.
And I'm not saying it's not a story, but they would not have used it the way they're using it.
Of course not.
Right.
This is everything
really
to people is political. This was a non-political story. It let Parnell just say, here are the facts, here's what happened, here's what I did, here's what everybody else did, here's where all the people were. I don't know how anybody comes out and looks at that thing unless you're totally biased from it and says, look, I don't know that I need to done anything different.
Well, some of the comments under these stories are ridiculous. I mean, they're saying he's the rapist. I mean, come on, people. That is ridiculous. It's just sensationalism.
Well, as I said before, the newspaper always drives the coverage in the city, and when the publisher of the newspaper worked behind the scenes to make the Walker, Malott, Beltrami ticket happen, you're going to get even extra biased coverage, even more than the liberal media typically displays.
And did you see the front page of the paper on Sunday?
No.
It was the whole cover was basically a 3-page spread for Walker, Malott.
Yeah.
And it said they're the independent candidates.
Yeah.
Not that he's the candidate. Both of them are the candidates.
Yeah.
Like they're both running for governor.
Yeah, or they're both independent, which, you can call into question whether either of them are at this point.
569-1080, 569-1080. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie, broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. 6:14 is the time.
Fagan and Biegel. Line at 1080KOAN.com.
There's a lot of so-called experts out there claiming to have the key to success in business for a price. Are you ready for real business advice you can trust without a fee? Then don't miss Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Advice from people in the know. Technology, finance, taxes, and more. Business people helping business people take their skills and services to the next level. Getting Down to Business with David Weatherholt. Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m. on Hot Talk, KOAN, 95.1 FM and 1080 a.m.
Paid for by Pruitt for State House, 2954 Brittany Place, Anchorage.
Let's Pruitt for our future.
You'll fight for you and me, a strong economy. What do educators and parents say about Lance Pruitt?
As a parent, I appreciate what Lance has done for schools and sports programs in East Anchorage.
From my perspective as a high school principal, Lance Pruitt is the best choice for East Anchorage.
Lance knows our kids are Alaska's future and much more than a budget line item.
Lance Pruitt is a genuine advocate for education. He supports teachers and knows the tools they need to be effective in the classroom.
As a teacher and a mom, I know Lance is the kind of leader we need to continue to move Alaska and education forward.
I'm voting for Lance because he's someone Alaska can trust.
Lance Pruitt, a true advocate for education and East Anchorage. November 4th, re-elect Lance Pruitt.
Lance Pruitt, he will do it for our future.
I'll never forget
that moment.
As long as I live.
My first call-up ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going out to drop water on the fires.
Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews.
At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Alaska National Guard, aired by the Alaska Broadcasters Association and this station.
My name is Billy Yellington, and I love being a firefighter.
2 years ago, while fighting a fire, the roof collapsed while Billy was underneath.
I didn't think I was going home.
Captain Mike Hermes and engineer Kevin Woolsey made up the rest of the crew that day.
With the snow load and everything else, they figured that section of the roof was about 6,000 pounds.
Captain Hermes calls a mayday. A firefighter is down.
I says, I got to stay with Billy. And I remember he said 4 words to me. He says, go. I got this. When they finally got him out, I still had that same feeling that he's probably not going to make it.
Billy did make it, but under AO-37, firefighters' voices are silenced on staffing and equipment needs. AO-37 makes a dangerous job more dangerous.
I'm convinced one less firefighter there that day, Billy won't debate her.
Vote no on 1 to keep politics out of public safety. This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Craig Goodrich chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International of Washington, D.C.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. In an election year, would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase? Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
You're on with...
Welcome back. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron here on KOA and KVNT. 569-1080 is our telephone number. I'm told that Governor Parnell in the debate last night with Bill Walker on Channel 2, I did not see it. I didn't realize until this morning that it was on. I'm told that Parnell really did well. You saw a little bit of it, huh, Bonnie?
I did. I caught snippets here and there, and he seems to know his issues.
He being?
Parnell. And Walker just is very vague. He won't give anything concrete. He says, well, I'll just have to wait till I'm in there.
You can't give specifics if you're all things to all people. If you're the
True.
Unity ticket, where you got the Great Alaska Schools, you got the NEA, you've got Vince Beltrami, and then you've got a whole bunch of people like the Balance the Budget folks, the Sustainable Budget people. How in the world do those two people, or all those groups fit in the same room? Unless you're totally vague.
It's hard enough to speak to your base. I can't imagine the pressure he must be feeling having to be all things to all people, like you said.
So how do you thought Parnell did well, the parts you saw?
I did. He's, like I said, he knows his issues. He is strong in his stances. He doesn't give vague snippets here and there like Walker seemed to.
Did Walker seem angry?
No. I don't think he seemed angry to me. Maybe accusatory, definitely. He tried to bring up the National Guard thing and told Sean Parnell not to act like the victim, and I don't know.
I saw Walker's ad. I thought he came across angry, spiteful, mean. Now it could be I'm rose-colored glasses. I really like Parnell, and I really think he'd be a great, choice to continue. But when you think about it, you look at Walker's base. The natives absolutely hate Parnell. The anti-oil populist people absolutely loathe Parnell. You got the left. He's pro-life, so they hate him. Really his contingency, Walker's strength is that he's united people who hate Sean Parnell. Is that fair, Glenn?
Yeah, I think so. And I was surprised because I didn't think that was really the basis of the Walker campaign early on. I had a few meetings with various people and in and around, including Bill Walker himself, and we talked speeches and points and parts, but I never got that sense, especially when Craig Fleener was part of it. But I get that sense now. I've heard some of the responses from the AFN, the Alaska Federation of Natives, and I don't understand it either. I'm really trying to figure out, because I know that Rise as One was sort of the headline for it, which to me sounds like communism. But frankly, I understand sort of the idea behind it. But I like the state of Alaska rising as one too, and I don't understand when one group of people who has not been poorly treated, who
are you talking about now?
The natives. I don't understand what it is that they want. I literally do not know. I don't have the first clue as to what it is they're asking for, other than they want to be able to talk, which is what Terrence Shennigan, who was a trooper and a friend of mine who's close in with the Native community, that's what he said. They want to talk about things, and they want a seat at the table. So if they haven't been given a seat at the table and they haven't been allowed to speak, that's a real problem. But I guess that's the sense that they have. I don't know what you do about that. I mean, other than you have to make sure that everybody feels included.
Well, you look at the political leanings of many in the Alaskan Native community, it's left of center. And yet, as a state, we're right of center. So it's difficult for the Alaska Native community to get positions of power because their political leanings do not reflect the majority of the state. I know Lauren Lehman, for example, is part Alaska Native, but they don't consider him Alaska Native because he's a conservative. So that's just the reality of the situation. Alaska Natives lean left.
Do you really think they do?
Oh, absolutely. I think as far as their view of government and government expanding and paying for things, and yes, I do believe they lean left.
Okay. So they want stuff from the government that they haven't earned, they haven't paid for.
Well, I think
is this sort of reparations that they're looking for?
No, I don't think that Dan Fagan is the perfect spokesman for the Alaska Native community. Wow. But I think the way I see when I hear them speak, they just feel like it's the white man is in control. He has all the power. They want more, they want better infrastructure in the villages. They want, more that
they don't have to pay for. I did a response to the recent KTUU story where they said, well, we've got $5 million to put mains into 100 homes. That's a $50,000 subsidy per house. That's just to get a main. That doesn't even put water in the person's home or put a bathroom in their home or running water in their home or anything else. You're going to end up with a $150,000 subsidy per home here. At some point, we can't afford this, but that's really what they want.
Well, in the North Slope borough currently, or I shouldn't say currently, this is back about 5 years ago, I wrote a column on this for the Daily News. The North Slope borough spends $100,000 per family in government service.
Per year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you cut them a check for $100,000, they'll probably be able to fend for themselves.
Well,
so, the spending in rural Alaska is out of control when it comes to government spending per person.
Most other places don't get anything like that, by the way. The North Slope is a very special case because they have all the pipeline infrastructure up there, which they tax as property.
Right.
They tax all the oil as property. They tax everything that flows through the pipeline as property.
Right.
And so they get a huge amount of money through, from the oil industry.
And the column that I was writing at the time was about offshore drilling, and Mayor Eda, who was the North Slope borough mayor at that point, he was trying to I won't say extort, but legally extort money from Shell. He was opposing offshore drilling, but he knew the game at that point. He knew that Shell had to cut him a deal, before he would give the blessing to the offshore drilling.
Such a bad way to do business.
That was
honestly, folks. Think about how many people in the North Slope could have a job if they let this go through. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So as far as I think the Native community typically is left, and they're frustrated.
The leadership, maybe. Because Byron Malot's total left. I mean, that guy. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think leadership. I think they vote that way.
Yeah.
I think that's their viewpoint. That's their worldview. That's what their leaders have taught them to believe. But I'm not saying there are no conservative Alaska Natives. Certainly not.
Yeah.
But I think the majority, like Charisse Millet's part Native.
Okay.
But she's not. You never hear about her. You never hear about her. Lord
being a
Lehman.
Native.
That's right.
Now, Terrence Shenigan and Craig Fleener, I consider both to be, they're both friends of mine. They're both conservatives. More libertarian leading.
I don't see it that way.
What?
Well, you don't know them, so how would you know?
I know what they believe.
What do they believe?
Well, they totally give carte blanche to unions.
No.
They don't.
No.
So they're for right-to-work legislation.
Actually, I think they would be. Yeah.
Bonnie, help me.
What?
Come on.
You guys don't know them. You never even asked them a question. I mean, you got to ask people questions. Didn't you tell me this, Dan?
I would think, though, that
How could you be a conservative
very...
and be a lieutenant governor to Bill Walker?
Bill Walker was a conservative at the time. He wanted to balance the budget, wanted limited government.
He wanted more taxes on businesses.
He was for Prop 1. I don't think Craig Fleener wasn't for Prop 1. Craig Fleener was against Prop 1.
How can you be a conservative and join with Bill Walker? Bill Walker doesn't have a conservative bone in his body. When it comes to government, the role of government.
I don't think that's true. You and I disagree with that. I think that he has 4 or 5 conservative bones in his body out of about 100.
Well, just because somebody's pro-life doesn't make them conservative either. And
okay, well, that's a good example of one conservative issue, but I think he's dropped that, so I didn't even consider that to be a conservative issue.
So badly. And it's funny to me, not funny, haha, but Byron Malott, really, it's got to be really hard for him not to be having his liberal talking points either. He's been having to be quiet.
He been quiet?
Yeah, I mean, you don't hear very much from him.
I'm sure he meets with his left-wing group.
Well, but I'm sure that Bill Walker's like, in order for me to get my conservatives, you're going to have to be quiet.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
What do you think they need more of, conservatives or left-wingers? Do you think they're taking left-wingers for granted because the left-wingers hate Parnell so much?
I think the left-wingers will do what Begich tells them to do. And Begich put his arm around this ticket.
So they're okay with the left. They just have to get a few more of the Eddie Borks of the world.
I don't know. I've been reading quite a few more comments, and Palin did not do him any favors, Walker any favors.
But do they hate Parnell? Who do they hate more?
No, I think
Parnell
they hate Palin more. So I do think that he lost some.
So their hatred for Palin will override their hatred for Parnell and just get at Palin so she'll pick a losing candidate.
Of course, it kind of might even out, though, because they hate Palin too. The conservatives, there's some that like her. There's some conservatives that like Palin too, so they might switch over to Walker just because she said so.
It's all so confusing.
I know, it's
569-1080, 569-1080. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron, Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. Time currently 6:29. $6.29.
Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. A former Fairbanks priest has been indicted for allegedly attempting to produce child pornography. 57-year-old Clint Landry, who was formerly with Sacred Heart Cathedral, was placed on leave the same week he was accused of the attempted act. Investigators were not specific about the age of the subjects or reported victim or what exactly the former priest is accused of doing. Candidates for governor have outlined their views on Alaska Native issues during the Alaska Federation of Natives convention taking place in Anchorage. The governor stressed his administration has worked to improve education opportunities in rural parts of the state, while challenger Bill Walker says if elected, he would emphasize technical training to improve job options. They differed on Medicaid expansion. Walker supports it, while the incumbent governor does not. Finally, former Governor Sarah Palin has turned to Facebook to officially announce her endorsement of independent gubernatorial candidate Bill Walker. That's your Hot Talk News update.
Clouds will give way to sunshine for today, high 31. Cloudy and cold for tonight, low 14. Partial sunshine tomorrow, high 30. Tuesday night, low 14. Wednesday, clouds and sunshine, high 31. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Is your IT department burdened with first-line support calls about printer jams and broken printers? Are individual departments purchasing expensive printer cartridges that get buried in office supply budgets? Is your printer support strategy really a printer replacement plan? Let Alaska Enterprise Solutions show you how to reduce those high print costs. AES is a Xerox professional agency in Alaska with Xerox's worldwide support behind them. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
6 years ago, we took a chance on Mark Begich. Begich promised us he'd be an independent voice for Alaska. Instead, he's voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. Begich supported them all, even though they hurt Alaska. 6 years ago, Begich promised to fight for ANWR. 6 years later, ANWR is still closed to exploration, and Begich stood by as Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska. Instead of taking responsibility for his failures and broken promises, Begich is running a vicious campaign with attacks called some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. We gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us a record of Obamacare, wasteful spending, and broken promises. We can't afford 6 more years of Mark Begich. Alaska needs a change. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Gabe, your 2 minutes are up. Herman, your 2 minutes are up. Your 2 minutes is up.
This is Harry Crawford, and those were the actual words of Kathy Giesel during public testimony. I believe a legislator's first and most important job is to listen to you. As I go door to door, I'm hearing you say you want intelligent, realistic budgets, not the deficit budgets this legislature has passed time and time again. Now, Kathy Giesel wants to fix the permanent fund. Me, I want to set your permanent fund dividend in stone by putting it in the Alaska Constitution.
Harry Crawford's plan to constitutionalize the permanent fund will keep politicians' hands off your dividend. Harry voted against 7 capital budgets because they didn't balance. Harry Crawford sponsored the Red Stripe Law that keeps problem drinkers from buying alcohol. And Harry Crawford spearheaded the Trust the People initiative to let you elect your own U.S. senators.
Trust the people. Those are words I live by. This is Harry Crawford, and I would appreciate your vote.
Paid for by Crawford for Alaska, Anchorage.
When I grew up, I wanted to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher. Oh, an Olympic gymnast.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything from auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream. For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Why is A&A the shop, Alaska's independent Subaru specialist? How is it they've been voted the best shop in Anchorage not once but 6 times? Well, it's pretty simple. They offer the best warranty in the business. If they work on your Subaru, you're going to get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on both parts and labor. That's unheard of. A&A the shop deals exclusively with Subarus, and they also offer $35 oil changes. All their technicians are ASE certified. Call A&A the shop for an appointment. 562-3919 in Anchorage and 696-2096 in Eagle River.
Here's my good friend, Keith Monternock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help.
call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call. 580.
All right, 6:35. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron. Our number 569-1080, 569-1080. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. You know, I'm treading on some thin ice here. I know that this is going to really anger people. We have things that we believe in, institutions that we hold dear, and sometimes they're not based in reality. And this is going to make a lot of people mad, but you know, the Wally Hickel, which is the where Bill Walker originates from, the Wally Hickel movement, the Malcolm Roberts movement, the backbone movement, the we have to tell the oil companies what to do movement. Wally Hickel, you know, his second term was pretty much a disaster. You know, he ran as a conservative, but he governed as a liberal when he got in his second term. You probably.
No, I don't remember. I just
You
know
agree
his
with that, Glenn?
Yeah.
I think his first term, you know, he
surrounded himself with people who were on the left, and
Exactly.
they, you know, a governor does not, very little of what the governor thinks or believes makes policy. Who he appoints is enormously important.
Evidenced by the Palin administration.
Palin administration, perfect example.
So I think that's what we're going to get with Walker. You agree with that, Glenn?
Yes.
And so that's
even if there are 4 people, and that's twice as many as Palin had in her administration, 4 Democrats who get appointed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. I totally agree that the cabinet makeup is going to largely determine how bad it will be.
And that was one thing that Parnell brought up. He did ask Walker yesterday who he's made deals with for this ticket.
Good for him.
And, you know, Walker said there weren't any deals made. But come on. How vague is that?
Okay, well, here's what's going to happen is if anytime after the election a bunch of Democrats get put in his cabinet, you will hear from this program a constant reminder of that quote, no deals were made. Oh, but by the way, I'm really conservative, but I just happen to put a bunch of Democrats in my candidate. BS. It's going to be a lie. I'm going to hate it. It's going to make me really upset and angry. And here's what I hope, by the way, for Eddie Burke and anybody else who's actually out there listening and considers themselves a conservative. If you elect a person and they put a bunch of Democrats in the revenue positions and DNR and DEC or wherever, you will be responsible for what happens to the state, you, not knowing what you're voting for.
569-1080, 569-1080. Terrence.
Good morning.
Hi, is this Terrence, the state trooper?
Oh, yeah.
And what's your last name, Terrence?
Shanigan.
Shanigan. I apologize for that. So Glenn and I were just having a conversation about whether you and Mr. Fleener are conservatives.
Yeah, well, we consider ourselves conservative libertarians.
Okay.
And so I'll tell you, we're not, we're pro-life.
Yes, sir.
We are very fiscally conservative.
Okay.
Extremely small government-minded. And we're military folks. So.
And you're supporting Bill Walker?
Yes.
Do you support right-to-work legislation?
We are for the freedom to associate. This is a libertarian in us. Shouldn't be forced to be a part of a union, and but we should have the right to associate in the workplace.
So, do you favor right-to-work legislation?
Yes.
You do? You do?
Yes.
Wow, my apologies.
Do you favor school choice?
Yes. And when we talk about school choice, what Fleener and I like to talk about is the conversation always steers toward vouchers. Well, when we're talking about choice, there are a lot of ways.
Do you favor vouchers?
I think that there should be portability of money. When I look at the state constitution, because I had to read it here recently to make sure I understood what the Constitution currently says, as the Constitution is written, public money can only be used for our education. But
do you favor changing the Constitution and allowing for vouchers?
Yes.
Okay. The Prop 1, the ballot initiative that would have brought us back to ACES, did you favor that?
As far as going to ACES, no, I'm not a supporter of ACES, but I'm also not a supporter of SB 21.
So how'd you vote on Prop 1?
On Prop 1, I voted yes, but it wasn't because I supported ACES, because I absolutely hated ACES. I don't like the progressivity in it. I also didn't like some of the things that ACES did. The reason why I didn't support SB 21 was more based on how the process occurred to get us to that point. People voting, some information wasn't allowed to come out during the process right before the vote. There were people voting on it that I thought should have declared conflicts of interest.
How will you vote on Prop 1 coming up, the AO37 bill?
So with AO37, I would probably be more of a no versus a yes. In the recent debate that we had, Craig and I argued a number of points on AO37 that were bad, and in the law itself. And it was agreed. I mean, there were everybody shaking their head, including Ernie Hall and Bill Evans, that we need to go back and if AO37 passes, it's about the end of the world.
You know, I was there when you were giving that presentation, and you did very well for, not being as prepared as like a union leader would have been.
Well, because I wasn't arguing the union point.
Exactly. But I was a little disappointed with how it went, because you were just talking about the points with AO37 and the bad parts of AO37. To me, that is not why we should be voting no or yes. I'm voting yes because I don't think this is the way the process should go. I don't think it should be left up to the public because it's a very complex matter.
So here's where the conversation on AO37 gets confused for people. AO37 are the ground rules that the city is going to use to negotiate with the unions, and a lot of the yes side is using actual contract or things that they get in contract negotiations to pound on AO37. When you start saying, well, this police officer got $280,000 for this, or this firefighter is getting paid X amount of dollars, those are concessions, a specific assignment like a dog handler that they get in a contract. It has nothing to do with AO37. But AO37 has a couple of elements in it that have to be fixed. And that was our point of arguing. If we were a citizen of the city, we wanted to make sure that they understood AO37 from our perspective. I'm not one of the union folks.
Don't you think, though, that the voting public... Don't you think that the voting public should leave that to their elected representatives to make those decisions?
You're just arguing the initiative process in general.
Right.
I think the process was actually handled fairly well. I mean, part of it at the very end was kind of closed off and that sort of thing. And if anybody didn't get involved like I didn't during that time, it's our fault. And we should have had put our chips on the table. But AO37 should not be something that we should be voting on.
Do you favor going back to defined contributions?
No, not in the current sense. I just recently read an article about how another state had to resolve its problem because it was underfunding itself at a rate. This people going in the system. We have Anandu Bay and I have discussed this at length about what's going on with our defined contribution system, and you have the Tier 1, which cannibalized Tier 2 because the benefits of Tier 2 were less. If people also contributing less as they go downstream. And then
just as a general principle, do you favor defined contributions?
As far as, no, I wish that I had an opportunity to just go and have my own retirement like the 401k system.
Right, not a pension plan, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I do not have enough freedom in the ability to control my retirement in the structure that I have.
Hey, do you know, is Anon supporting Walker or Parnell?
I haven't had that specific discussion with him yet.
He's not going to stay. Why would he? He's running his own race. He's trying to get into the legislature. He's going to be great regardless of who's.
And I haven't had that discussion with him.
Terrence, I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 644, Megan Beagle-Bonnie. But who's he supporting?
Give him a call. 1080 KOAN.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic bed.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic adjustable bed.
These aren't actors. They're real people who sleep better every night thanks to their Craftmatic adjustable bed. Just call 800-371-9576. That's 800-371-9576 for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. Call 800-371-9576. That's 800-371-9576.
In Washington, Mark Begich has voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time, adding trillions to the national debt, casting the deciding vote for Obamacare, and protecting Obama's executive amnesty for illegal immigrants. Alaska needs a senator who will fight back against Obama's agenda. As our Attorney General, Dan Sullivan sued to stop Obamacare and defended our Second Amendment rights. As Alaska's DNR Commissioner, Sullivan stood down Obama's EPA, unleashed new energy production, and created Alaskan jobs. Now Sullivan is running for the U.S. Senate to stop the Washington big spenders from bankrupting America. Sullivan will cut wasteful spending and support a balanced budget amendment. And Dan Sullivan is pro-life. He'll protect life while fighting to repeal Obamacare. Dan Sullivan. Strong leadership for Alaska.
I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
Hey, if you think all you need to know about beer is how to pop the top off the can, go to worldclassbeer.com. There's a whole world of beer out there, and worldclassbeer.com can help you navigate it. Learn the difference between an ale and a lager at Beer U. Get descriptions of all the craft beers and learn why they're so different. And when you see one you'd like to try, the Beer Spy Locator can direct you to the closest store. Worldclassbeer.com, designed to help you get closer to your beer. Brought to you by the Odom Corporation. Always drink responsibly.
Paid for by More for Alaska, Anchorage.
Taking pride in work when it comes from the heart. Doing your best and staying the course even in tough times. There are Alaskans who still understand the value of service and sacrifice. Matt Moore is one of those. Someone who knows that paying your dues should come before office and power. That leadership, wielded by inexperienced and self-interested hands, can be destructive.
This is Matt Moore. Lance Pruitt is proud of his record. A record of not fully funding education, budget deficits that put our permanent fund at risk, and supporting mega projects we can't afford. My father once told me, whatever you choose to do it well. That's the way our country was, the way I'd like to see it be again, where pride in work comes from actually doing an honorable job, because that's the way it ought to be.
Matt Moore, a legislator we can be proud of.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
All right, welcome back. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron, broadcaster of KOAN, KVNT. Our number 569-1080, 569-1080. Here's some tweets Amanda Coyne presented on her blog about the debate. John Arano, who's a hard leftist, hard leftist, he may be one of the few people that would actually say, yes, I am a leftist. The only person I've ever had admit that they are left of center was what's his name? He used to work right for the Larry Persily. He said, well, the liberal in me. He said, what? Stop the presses. Are you kidding me? You just call yourself a liberal? I said, well, yeah, I'm a liberal. I said, I've never had anybody.
Wow.
Yeah. So John Arano, he wrote, great job by Steve McDonald. He's been fantastic this campaign. I guess I'll leave it at that. So where you said John Arano, oh, there it is. Let's see. Okay, well, Arano's is responding. He did better in the 2010 primary debate. Crowd rattled him tonight, maybe. Talking about Walker. Said Walker needed to gain more ground. Vince Beltrami, Biden's good friend, said most of Parnell's crowd at the debate were either Parnell cabinet appointees, campaign, or Republican staffers.
He'd like to see them union members, union hacks, spouses of union members and hacks.
Well, and who was Walker's people?
Tim Fitzpatrick, Parnell demonstrated more confidence and grasp of issues tonight. Walker was more defensive and had more punts.
And that's what you noticed too, right, Bonnie?
He was trying to dig, all the digs.
He thinks he's made it, and now it's just time to sort of just
there was no depth. Yeah. There was no depth there.
Here's what Amanda writes. She said Parnell looked mean.
No, Walker.
No, said all right, let's see. She's responding. John Arano said he did better than 2010 primary. Crowd rattled him tonight. Maybe. Talking about Walker. And then she said maybe, or Parnell had just gotten better. Walker smiling didn't help. He looked mean, and he's not mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ted writes, Parnell has one of the worst records ever, and Walker's not good at calling him out on it. It's disappointing. Ben writes, well, a couple of good one-liners, but if you've seen the debate, you see them all.
I don't think so. I thought Walker really tried to bring up all the bad points, and Parnell just kind of shoved them away because they weren't truthful. They are not based in fact. He's trying to, Walker was trying to get all the talking points out about the budget and how you can't raise the budget and then act like you're cutting it. And
what was Parnell's response to that, by the way?
Parnell said, when you have a bipartisan legislature who were, coming up with their own budgets, what am I supposed to do?
He could still veto.
Well, he said he did.
Yeah.
He said, I took out my veto pin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it wasn't enough. Yeah.
The Adam Pinkster writes, Walker says the process of setting up the gas line was done mostly behind closed doors in Juneau. Then Amanda responds, yeah, remember how Palin won in 2006 over secret negotiations in quotation marks. Everything old is new again. She's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Palin all over again. Parnell actually jumps in, says it's my duty as governor to uphold the state's constitution. What are the constitutional provisions is Walker willing to roll over on?
That was a really good line. I heard that because he was being asked about the gay marriage law. And he said, listen, it's my duty as governor to uphold the Constitution and what people voted on.
Austin writes, Walker says no deal was cut to merge the ticket. Parnell says that doesn't pass the smell test. That's a good line.
That is a good line. I really hope conservatives start thinking when those appointments get made, maybe it's going to be judges, and who knows how many different things. I'd take it at least 4 or 5 key critical issues.
Yeah.
That Walker basically has just walked away from. I will do this. I won't do that. I'm going to promise I'm not going to do anything. Well, I'm going to walk that back. It's very confusing, and if you're not confused at this point, I don't think you're paying attention.
And that Walker wants to start everything over with gas line, all that stuff. There
is
so or depending on who he's talking to.
I should have gone through all these or not, or should I keep suing or not?
There's a very big story in this that I'm just beginning to realize. John Arano he's one of the top 5 leftists in the state, one of the top 5 most influential. You got the Mudflats lady. You got Shannon Moore, you got Vince Beltrami, you got John Arano. Those are some of the leaders in leftism.
The elite
Well,
crew.
he's got a pretty well-read website that the leftists all go to. And I'm beginning to sense that he doesn't like Walker, which is a really big thing. Let me read you this tweet by a guy named Nikki. Parnell, quoting Parnell, I acted immediately. I want you to quit saying that I didn't on the National Guard scandal. Walker, Governor, you're not the victim here. Now, here's what John Arano says about that. He says the victim comment was forced and tacky, in my personal opinion. So I'm sensing Arano, one of the top 5 leftists in the state. If he's not on board for this Walker ticket, that could show a real crack in the support for Mr. Walker from the left. Our good friend Sarah Palin
Sarah Erkman.
Sarah Erkman, sorry. Parnell, quoting him, if Alaska had taken Walker's advice and voted yes on one, Alaska would have lost $200 million in revenue because of low oil prices.
That has got to be one of the hardest things for all those people who voted yes, or what was it, no on one. I can't even remember which one.
The opposite of what it is now.
Right, exactly. So I imagine that that has got to harm their psyche at some very basic, fundamental, low level because they were lied to for so many months. Oh, no, Parnell is doing this just out the oil companies. This is terrible for the state of Alaska. Under no circumstances is a good thing. Oh, as it turns out, the state of Alaska got $200 million, and I've heard $250 million, depending on where oil prices stay.
And it's not just that; it's the jobs. I mean, there has never been a time before that you could get a job without knowing somebody.
Yeah, you apply on the North Slope. NMS USA is a good place to go. If it's not necessarily a traditional slope job, but it'll get you up there.
Jobs say it all. That to me, that's what it says.
Who's Bill Skidell? He sounds familiar. Anybody know him? No. He wrote, Parnell smoked Walker. Every D who backed this abomination needs their head shrunk.
And this is kind of controversial, but I would almost say that Parnell is a victim in a different sense of the word here. They are making him into a victim by constantly barraging him with the accusations that would go nowhere in a non-election cycle.
Look, I think KTUU laid it out today. If you want to know everything that there is to know about the National Guard, who did what, who knew what was done, what flowed through Katkus, when Begich came in, when Murkowski came in. If you want to know everything about it, just go to the KTUU story. I think it lays it out.
It's a 30-minute interview with Grace Chang.
Wow.
Yeah. So here they're talking about Beltrami apparently thought Walker lost. And here's a comment. Walker's owner, Vince Beltrami, couldn't even suggest Walker did well tonight. Vince has integrity after all. Yeah, this I'm telling you, look, I've been watching politics for a long time. And I'm telling you, this campaign commercial that I saw during the Pittsburgh Steelers game last night, the Pittsburgh Steelers Indianapolis Colts game, which is one of the best games I've ever seen. This ad by Walker, he looked angry, he looked accusatory, he looked mad, he never smiled, and he looked right at the camera and goes, and I'll see you at the debates. I mean, he was like an angry old man. Yeah.
Whoa.
It did not, it was it was cheaply done. Whoever did it, it wasn't it's nothing like the ad you see from Parnell or Begich or Sullivan. So I think, I don't think he's running a very good campaign.
Well, that's interesting. A lot of times a campaign will start out with essentially no money, which is what Bill Walker, where he was for, I don't know, a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they'll come into money, but their viewpoint doesn't change. It costs a lot of money to make a decent-looking commercial. They don't just happen, and so he may still be stuck to his detriment and to trying to look like a cheap candidacy.
658, Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, 569-1080 is our number if you'd like to join the broadcast. We're streaming live on 1080KOAN.com. We'll be right back.
When you've got the best ingredients, the pizza comes out right. That's just what we're cooking for every appetite. Experience the flavor, call us right away. 24/7, it's a pizza party day.
October is National Pizza Month. Just hearing the word pizza brings a smile to almost everyone's face. And Sicily's Pizza wants to make you smile 5 times as big with their National Pizza Month special. Get as many as 5 medium 2-topping pizzas for only $9.99 each. Whatever style you like. For fast delivery, call 333-8000 and order the Sicily's National Pizza Month special. 333-8000 or order online at SicilysPizza.com. Best ingredients, best pizza, Sicily's.
Just call Sicily's Pizza. 333-8000.
You're listening to Hot Talk, KOAN, Anchorage, AM 1080, and retranslated on 95.1 FM on K236CG, Anchorage.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. She's free to go. The nurse isolated in a tent at a New Jersey hospital out of Ebola concern is now headed home. Fox News Radio's Evan Brown has the update live.
Dave, nurse Casey Hickox will be leaving medical isolation at University Hospital in Newark, New Jersey, and will head to Maine. She was placed in isolation after reportedly having a fever since returning from working with Ebola patients in Sierra Leone. She never tested positive herself, though New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's policy required her be quarantined.
If anything else, the government's job is to protect the safety and health of our citizens.
Hickox hired a lawyer and is suing the state. Health officials had originally planned to hold Hickox for 21 days, Dave.
7 U.S. troops are in Africa combating the Ebola outbreak, and Fox News has learned the Joint Chiefs of Staff has recommended making it mandatory all returning troops be quarantined 21 days. That is similar to New York and New Jersey's policy, which President Obama has opposed. Another Ebola scare in New York City. A little boy is being tested after paramedics dressed in hazmat suits took him away.
The New York Post is reporting that this 5-year-old boy returned to New York City on Saturday from Guinea and started to exhibit symptoms last night. The 5-year-old had a 103-degree fever and was vomiting when he was transported here to Bellevue, and neighbors say he looked weak.
That's Carrie Drew with Fox affiliate WNYW outside the same hospital where a doctor returning from Africa was diagnosed with Ebola last week. The Methodist Church does a 180 on a pastor defrocked for performing a gay marriage. Fox News Radio's Tanya J. Powers on this live.
Frank Schaefer gets to keep his status as an ordained minister with the United Methodist Church following a ruling by its judicial council that a Pennsylvania church jury was wrong to oust him last year. The church disciplined him after he officiated at the wedding of his gay son. Officials wanted him to promise he would never perform another gay marriage. He refused to do that, Dave.
Tanya on Wall Street, the Dow not doing too much, down just 3 points. This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you've found it. Whether carving snow or pounding trails, Ski-Doo snowmobiles and KOAN AM ATVs and side-by-sides are engineered to perform and thrill. And right now, during the Yellow Tag event, save up to $2,000 on select models. Plus, get up to a 2-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is to start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 1818 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 1818.
This is Dr. Ellenberg. Are you tired of taking medications? Do your medications create more side effects than solutions? Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-2366 or visit us online at drellenberg.com. We can help.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
All my life, I've enjoyed hunting and fishing, but as I got older, it made it harder to enjoy the Alaskan outdoors. Thanks to Chugash Chiropractic, I'm back on the stream enjoying Alaska.
Besides aligning the spine, we also deal with the musculature and the nervous system of the body. To do that, we not only adjust the spine, but we also bounce muscles along with various therapies and deep tissue therapy. We help bring the body back to normal function.
When Malarkey Mark Begich ran for U.S. Senator, he made a lot of claims about his record as Anchorage mayor. Begich knew the truth wouldn't come to light before the election. But now, history has caught up with Malarkey Mark. Under Begich, Anchorage taxes went up 27%. Under Begich, the city budget ballooned, a $142 million increase in spending. Under Begich, the city was saddled with unprecedented 5-year union contracts. Under Begich, a deficit of over $20 million was left for the next mayor to deal with. Begich left Anchorage in serious trouble. Alaska's Energy, America's Values paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
All right, 706-569-1080. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron.
Well, I'm moving to Silver City.
Bonnie's parents, well, I don't know, she probably doesn't want that broadcast.
I don't care.
Okay, they live in Silver City, 1213 Main Drive. Their home number is...
No, they're snowbirds. They only live there half the year.
You know, I don't know.
Less than half the year.
Because we're talking about retirement.
Thank you, Bonnie.
We're talking about retirement. And, you know, it's funny. I think it depends a lot on the person. My dad retired at 63, and he lived to 78, and he just had a blast. He loved his retirement years. My mother tried retiring. I don't know how long she lasted. Not long at all. And she's, 80 now, still working. Doesn't have to financially. Totally wants to. So I don't know, Glenn, you're looking forward to retirement.
Yeah, I guess it has to be in some ways. I probably work 70 to 75 hours a week. And I got a full-time family, and I do.
You have more than a full-time family. Sorry,
news
bulletin.
You have multiple families.
I got 4 families, and so I'm a little overwhelmed for the most part. And if my wife did not sort of direct me and take care of all the innumerable things, I would not be able to even come close to do what I'm doing. But it is. I do feel overwhelmed.
It's so weird. Last night, I had a dream. I was back at my old TV station in Louisiana with my old news director.
Okay, were your clothes on or off? What kind of dream were we talking about?
Clothes.
Okay, you were clothes. You never know where people are going here. All right.
Let's keep it G-rated here.
I always dress for my dreams.
Thank you.
But I remember sitting down with my news director, and we're talking about the story that I'm going to work on that day. And I remember I woke up. And I was still in the mode. I thought to myself, I got to get to work. I've got, and I'm literally thinking I'm going to work at my old TV station. And I get up out of bed and I realize my surroundings. Oh no, this is Alaska. This is not Louisiana.
Oh, good. I don't have to go investigate another murder today.
Oh.
Right.
Oh well.
What was the story about, by the way?
Since there's lots of them down there.
We had a lot of crime down there, but I enjoyed reporting. I did. There's something about it. There's a lot of things about it. It was the rush. It was a lot of work. I worked, a lot of hours. Every day between 4 and 5, it was an intensity you cannot describe. Because that's typically when you write your script. And you have to get it to your photographer typically by 5 so he can edit it. And I'm telling you, I would rewrite my script 100 times in that hour. But I wanted it to be so good. So I would keep rewriting and just give me 10 more minutes. My photographer would come up, and he was pressured because he wanted to make the video portion of the script good. So there was a tension there, but I just loved it. I loved putting on the best product every day that I could, and I only had a limited amount of time to do it. The beauty of being a reporter is that when you left that evening at 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever your shift was, your day was done. Because normally you'll do that story that day, and you'll never do that story, again. So I loved the rush of it. There was such a rush to it. When I started writing my column for the Anchorage Daily News, because I could work on a column for 8 hours. That was such a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could rewrite it 1,000 times, and every time you rewrite it, it would get better. So that was something I miss reporting, and sometimes I think, should I go back? Should I give it? It's a young man's game, but still, I've got the skill. I think I'd be a pretty good reporter. I don't think I could ever do it in Anchorage.
No, you'd have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, because everybody knows my political bent.
But you do it with the show. I mean, that was the part of.
Nobody pays me.
You get so many contacts.
I don't get paid to go out and do it.
No, but I mean,
with a photographer.
You actually, and frankly, you're in the midst of breaking a story right now about Rogoff and her interactions with the Walker ticket as it was being formed. Maybe she knows what was promised or what was at least discussed.
Well, and you had thought that it had kind of gone away and they'd not done as much in the paper anymore, and then there was that huge cover.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that the Walker people paid for it, but it literally had Alaska Dispatch going across the top of it.
Yeah. You're talking about a big spread this Sunday.
Yes. I mean, it was the cover.
With the Walker cab. Glenn's talking about the fact that we've learned that Alice Rogoff has had interactions, at least present at one of the meetings, that formed the Walker ticket. Mm-hmm. And it's reflected, obviously, in the coverage. 569-1080, 569-1080. Joe, you're on.
Thank you, Dan. Morning, Bonnie and Glenn.
Morning.
Is this Independent Joe?
Yeah, that's right, except for I'm a little bit ticked off at our president and the way he's doing things now, but the reason why I called...
You and 100 million of the rest of us.
Hey, I voted for Ronald Reagan and Joe Miller.
Well done.
So what'd you call for, Joe?
Wow.
Just to check to see if you three are swinging around there for our... statesman Bill Walker.
What do you think? I think Glenn. Yeah, I bet there's a 12% chance Glenn pulls Bill Walker's lever.
What do you think he's going to do when he gets into office there, Joe?
No.
Is he going to cut the budget or not cut the budget? And if he does cut the budget, give me one thing you think he might cut.
I think he. You're going to have to ask Bill Walker that, but I don't think it would hurt the government if we cut back 5-10% everything.
Yeah, even Division of Family and Youth Services, even the troopers,
and still deliver.
Yeah. Well, look, our mayor here has had to deal with enormously ridiculous and difficult budgets from the Begich administration. He did cut. He did reduce, and we still have services coming out. So I would imagine that you're right. But here's the question, Joe: do you think that Walker will have the strength to do that? Because it's very unpopular. People lose jobs. You have to essentially redo that department from the ground up in order to restructure it.
Bill Walker's a businessman, and I think he is more qualified than Parnell. And by the way, this is a man versus boy race. This is a guy, Bill Walker, that was more successful as an attorney. And also, I want to add that
he never won a case.
The native vote is going to determine this race.
He never won a case. How's that successful? I mean, he made $15 million from the city of Valdez, and he was successful in that regard, but he never won a case.
Well, I'll take the Valdez in that regard comment from you there, Dan.
So the fact that he personally profited from being a lawyer makes him successful, even though he never won a case?
He was more successful than Parnell ever was at being an attorney. But I'm going to tell you this, Dan. The native vote is the one that's going to determine this race. I think Anchorage will probably be a split. But there's also the matter of our fish and game, the depletion of our stocks. I'm a hunter and fisher. I was born and raised here. I'm a third-generation Alaskan. Been here for 55 years. I'm just slightly older than you, Dan.
Well, kiss it goodbye if Walker gets in there and has a liberal cabinet.
And Bonnie, you of all people, that Southern Republican policy of Parnell, I mean, don't you know that women are hated by the Republican
I don't
Party?
feel hated. I don't feel hated.
But anyhow, that fish and game.
How do you feel about Holland's French DNR
If you're a
commissioner?
fisherman or a hunter,
How do you
you're
feel
gonna
about
vote for
Holland's
Walker.
French DNR
No,
commissioner?
I disagree.
Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie, 7:14 is the time.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
My name is Billy Yelvington, and I love being a firefighter.
2 years ago, while fighting a fire, the roof collapsed while Billy was underneath.
I didn't think I was going home.
Captain Mike Hermes and engineer Kevin Woolsey made up the rest of the crew that day.
With the snow load and everything else, they figured that section of the roof was about 6,000 pounds.
Captain Hermes calls a mayday. A firefighter is down.
I said, I got to stay with Billy. And I remember he said 4 words to me. He says, go. I got this. When they finally got him out, I still had that same feeling that he's probably not going to make it.
Billy did make it. But under AO-37, firefighters' voices are silenced on staffing and equipment needs. AO-37 makes a dangerous job more dangerous.
I'm convinced one less firefighter there that day, Billy wouldn't have been here.
Vote no on 1 to keep politics out of public safety. This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Craig Goodrich chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International of Washington, D.C.
In Washington, Mark Begich has voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time, adding trillions to the national debt, casting the deciding vote for Obamacare, and protecting Obama's executive amnesty for illegal immigrants. Alaska needs a senator who will fight back against Obama's agenda. As our Attorney General, Dan Sullivan sued to stop Obamacare and defended our Second Amendment rights. As Alaska's DNR Commissioner, Sullivan stood down Obama's EPA, unleashed new energy production, and created Alaskan jobs. Now Sullivan is running for the U.S. Senate to stop the Washington big spenders from bankrupting America. Sullivan will cut wasteful spending and support a balanced budget amendment. And Dan Sullivan is pro-life. He'll protect life while fighting to repeal Obamacare. Dan Sullivan, strong leadership for Alaska.
I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
6 years ago, we took a chance on Mark Begich. Begich promised us he'd be an independent voice for Alaska. Instead, he's voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. Begich supported them all, even though they hurt Alaska. 6 years ago, Begich promised to fight for ANWR. 6 years later, ANWR is still closed to exploration, and Begich stood by as Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska. Instead of taking responsibility for his failures and broken promises, Begich is running a vicious campaign with attacks called some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. We gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us a record of Obamacare, wasteful spending, and broken promises. We can't afford 6 more years of Mark Begich. Alaska needs a change. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Terry Crawford looks to...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call, 569-1080. KOAN.
All right, welcome back. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron. Keith Montauk is our friend. He's not here. He's the owner of Specialty Truck and Auto, and he's working hard fixing cars and getting people peace of mind when they drive their vehicle. You know, Keith Montauk's been in business a long time, worked on many of my cars, and he's a trustworthy fellow. You want trustworthiness in a mechanic, right? Well, Keith's your guy. I can vouch for him. I'm telling you, he is as honest as the day is long. He's right over there on the Long Branch, right across the street from the Long Branch Saloon off of Abbott. His number, Here it is. You ready? Make an appointment. 349-1637. 349-1637. 720. The reason that when we were talking about that segment,
on Friday.
you don't hear that anywhere.
No.
You just don't hear that anywhere. 80% of what we spew out, you hear everywhere.
It's true.
That's my point. 569-1080. David, you're on.
Hey, good morning, Dan. How you doing? Bonnie and Glenn?
Well.
Say, you know, that ad for Keith Montauk, I really like him, and he does great with the veterans, you know, down in the fishing thing down in, Seward. But he's as honest as the day is long. I think I would change that comment. But the days, because the days are getting shorter.
5 minutes a day we're losing.
So he's getting less and less honest as we move along.
Yeah, but I'm sure that's not true, Keith. Anyway, I have a tentative cabinet here for Mr. Walker if he does win.
Oh, you've worked out what you think it's going to be? We should do an office pool on this, by the way, but I appreciate you giving us a heads up on what you think it's going to be.
Okay, Craig Fleener will be Fish and Game Commissioner.
I'd say there's a 50% likelihood of that.
And because of that, the Alaska Native community will get a subsistence set aside. Marty McGee, when he loses to Liz Vasquez in District 22, he will become the Department of Revenue. Because he was very good at raising taxes here in Anchorage.
Huge.
As the tax assessor.
Squeezed every dime out of the taxpayer he could.
Yes, he did.
He was the appraiser, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he was. Harry Crawford, when he loses to Senator Giesel.
Labor Commissioner.
No. He was he was nosed out on that one. I just put him down at DOA.
Oh.
Department of Administration?
Department of Administration, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was going to say.
So you think he'll be the commissioner of the administration?
Well, yeah, I couldn't put him anywhere else. There was no good fit.
Okay.
He's good with DMV, right?
Yeah. And Department of Labor, well, that's a natural, Vince Beltrami.
No, Vince is much more powerful than the labor commissioner.
Oh, yeah. Vince Beltrami or his designee.
Yeah, I think it'd be maybe his right-hand man or something. But
Chief of staff or
why
something.
would you give up the most powerful
So you think
position?
Revenue, Labor, Department of Administration, that almost always goes, by the way, to one of your closest friends, because the Department of Administration is really your right-hand guy.
Where does Hollis go in all this? Hollis French.
Wait a minute, folks. Vince Beltrami, by the way, Dan, he doesn't have any right-hand men. All his men are left-hand. Carol Conwell will come back and become the Commissioner of Education.
Oh, wow.
Or, by the way, she could actually move to the Marshall Islands and run it from there.
That's where, there you go. Where do you have Hollis?
Hollis? You mean Mr. French?
Yes, sir.
Well, he will move in immediately as the Attorney General, and then he will migrate to the Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark Begich, when he loses to Governor Parnell, he will become Commissioner of Military Affairs. Because he has so much experience in that area.
Yeah. Can you imagine? So what do you think about will there be any Republicans at all, David?
I'm looking here. I think.
Where did Sarah go?
Chief of Staff.
Yeah.
Chief of Staff. No. I got a better one for you there. What's his name? Byron Malott. Will be tired of the job in about 6 months, and he will resign, as did Sarah, and Sarah will step in and be his replacement.
Yeah. Now, what about all the backbone people like Malcolm Roberts and Wilikowski and all these guys? Aren't they going to get filled in the cabinet?
They'll be the kitchen cabinet.
Kitchen cabinet. Gotcha.
I think maybe Gary Stevens, Senator Stevens from he'll be the token quote Republican. He will probably move from the Senate to another position.
Do you see anything, David? And David Boyle's with the Alaska Policy Forum.
Oh, no, this is coming from me as a citizen.
This is not David Boyle with the Alaska Policy Forum. It's his twin brother.
Yeah.
David, do you see anything coming out of the Walker administration that would resemble shrinking government, advancing the economy?
No way.
Nothing.
He has promised so many, and after watching him last night in the debate kind of waffle around and just kind of squirm in his chair was kind of fun to watch. But
did you think he got beat last night?
Yeah, but yes, I did, and some people vote on those on the basis of those debates. I don't. I vote, watching see what they stand for. But yeah, I think he got soundly beat.
Yeah.
He didn't have a position on anything that was definite.
Yeah.
He's going to raise, he's going to raise the. First of all, he's going to raise the base student allocation. He has to because, by the way, I want to say Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, was here a week ago yesterday.
The national president.
The national president, yeah.
Okay.
And she was here doing a fundraiser for Mark Begich.
Oh, my goodness.
So the NEA is here big time, and the American Federation of Teachers. They are the big elephants in the room during this entire thing. It's not so much Vinnie Beltrami.
Wow.
But
David Bohl's twin brother, how do you see the Senate race going? How do you see the governor's race going?
It just, well, they're both toss-ups, I think.
Really? Even the Senate race?
I think so. And, yeah, I think actually my feelings are that maybe some of the other third-party candidates are going to make Mark Begich a winner.
No, Mark Fish scares the snot out of me.
Well, a vote for Mark Fish is a vote for Mark Begich.
He's a single candidate guy now. Every day he goes on his Facebook page. More pot. We need pot. You got to get pot.
Well, I like Mark as a person, but, from what I read did you read the Fairbanks News Miner article?
No, the endorsement?
No.
Oh.
He has not. He even if he wins, he couldn't become senator because he didn't file the right paperwork with the Federal Election Commission.
Well, so why is he on the ballot?
That's a very good question.
Well, I've told him, I've put on his Facebook page that he single-handedly represents next to Mark Begich, the clear and present danger of any other Alaskan to our republic. Begich being the number one, Fish being second, because of Fish. And I've had Lisa Murkowski's people told me that they're concerned about Fish more than anything.
Well, and you've seen the ads from Mark Begich.
I know he's. Did you see that?
No.
Begich is now promoting Fish.
What?
Mark Fish? No, he said Mark Begich and Mark Fish both have opposed the Patriot Act and all this stuff.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Well, no, but that shows. I mean, if Fish had an ounce of sense, he'd realize, hey, look who I'm on, whose side I'm on, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to go read the article written by the Fairbanks Chamber president.
Yeah.
In a Daily News Miner. I don't know what day of the week it was, but in there, Mark Begich has been trying to get Mark Fish into, for many times over, he's talked to the chamber to get Mark Fish into the debate up there in Fairbanks.
Sure.
And it's been going on since August.
Begich's pecking order here with help was first Joe Miller. That didn't work. Then his last hope is Mark Fish.
Well, you remember what Bob Byrd did in 2008.
Remind me.
Well, Bob Byrd ran, and Bob Byrd's a really sharp guy. I really like him.
Yeah.
He ran as a Libertarian candidate.
Yeah.
And he took enough votes probably away from Ted Stevens.
Yeah, he got 10,000 votes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So we can thank Bob Byrd for Obamacare.
He was the vote, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's what kills me with these libertarian clowns. And I'm really angry.
Well, I don't call them clowns, but, I just don't get it because all of a sudden you're a part of the problem, not the solution.
You are the problem.
I mean, I like their principles.
I'm going to say something here Dan's not going to like, but it's...
Oh, my goodness.
If Republicans... I'm not, actually. If Republicans would really start acting like Republicans, so many people would not identify themselves as libertarian anymore.
I can't disagree with that.
Okay.
No, I don't disagree with that at all, Bonnie. And, and especially up here in Alaska, and from what I understand, it's that way across the country.
Yes.
Because the libertarian element of the Alaska Republican Party was kicked out, when Russ Millett, and I was there, and it was they were all duly elected.
True or false, David? We would not have Obamacare if it were not for Bob Byrd. True or false?
We wouldn't. That's probably true.
Thank you. 729. Thanks, David. David Bohl's twin brother. 569-1080.
And now, the Fox News Business Report, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Anchorage. The best
or nothing.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks are modestly lower after last week's big rally. Chevron and ExxonMobil are weighing on the blue chips as oil plunges to its lowest level in more than 2 years after Goldman Sachs flashed its price target. At around 11 a.m. Eastern, the Dow Industrials are down 25 points. Chiquita Brands is being acquired by 2 Brazilian companies for about $742 million. The deal with Catrale Safra comes after Chiquita's shareholders rejected a proposal agreement with Price, an Irish food company, on Friday. And more Americans have signed contracts to buy homes. The National Association of Realtors said its seasonally adjusted pending home sales index rose a smaller than expected 0.3% in September from August. Tight credit and price increases have limited buying activity. And shares of Sarepta are plunging more than 30% after the Food and Drug Administration requested additional data on its lead drug for a muscle disorder. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Jolene Kent.
Warning, you must have your solar system up and running by midnight December 31st, or you'll miss out on this year's federal tax credit. Energy prices are expected to increase by as much as 40% in the near future. Go solar now with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. The door of opportunity is about to slam shut. Call 1-800-MY-SOLAR now for a free in-home assessment.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. An Anchorage doctor is facing child molestation charges, as we hear from Ann Kenda.
67-year-old Clifford Merchant was arrested over the weekend on charges that he molested children over a period of many years at his home and a cabin he owns. He's a contract physician for the emergency department at Providence, Alaska Medical Center, but has been suspended amid the investigation.
Former Governor Sarah Palin has officially endorsed independent Bill Walker for governor. Incumbent Sean Parnell previously served as her lieutenant governor. Their relationship soured a while ago, and Palin turned to Facebook to announce her choice, Walker. Finally, the MSB Capital Projects Department plans an open house tomorrow for the public to learn planned intersection improvements at Big Lake Road. Tuesday's open house is set to start at 6 p.m. at Faith Bible Fellowship Church. That's your Hot Talk News update. Local weather is next.
Clouds will give way to sunshine for today, high 31. Cloudy and cold for tonight, low 14. Partial sunshine tomorrow, high 30. Tuesday night, low 14. Wednesday, clouds and sunshine, high 31. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Gabe, your 2 minutes are up. Herman, your 2 minutes are up. Your 2 minutes is up.
This is Harry Crawford, and those were the actual words of Kathy Giesel during public testimony. I believe a legislator's first and most important job is to listen to you. As I go door to door, I'm hearing you say you want intelligent, realistic budgets, not the deficit budgets this legislature has passed time and time again. Now, Kathy Giesel wants to fix the permanent fund. Me, I want to set your permanent fund dividend in stone by putting it in the Alaska Constitution.
Harry Crawford's plan to constitutionalize the permanent fund will keep politicians' hands off your dividend. Harry voted against 7 capital budgets because they didn't balance. Harry Crawford sponsored the Red Stripe law that keeps problem drinkers from buying alcohol. And Harry Crawford spearheaded the Trust the People initiative to let you elect your own U.S. senators.
Trust the people. Those are words I live by. This is Harry Crawford, and I would appreciate your vote.
Paid for by Crawford for Alaska, Anchorage.
When I grew up, I want to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, Country Financial helps you and your family grow your own way.
Or maybe a veterinarian.
A mom, a doctor, and president of the United States. Maybe an astronaut or, an Olympic gymnast.
You can grow your own way. We know some dreams take a little longer to achieve, which is why your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything, from auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream.
Or maybe an accountant, like my dad.
For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Do you remember that Beatles song? If the rain comes, they'll run and hide their heads. You know which one I'm talking about. Well, if that's you, and you're inside your home or office, it's time to call Earhart Roofing. Call Earhart Roofing for all your roofing needs. Flat or pitched, large or small, Earhart Roofing will do the job quickly, and they'll do it right. Earhart Roofing, big enough to serve you, and still small enough to care. Call 345-5555. That's 345-5555. Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080KOAN.com.
$569-1080. 1080 is 569-1080. We're Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie broadcasting on the worldwide intraweb.
You know, when you guys were saying that the other day, I thought you were serious. I had not heard Steven.
You never heard that?
I think I remember when he said that, but I was like,
the
are
series
they
of
serious?
tubes? Yeah, no, that was one of the funniest little moments ever. Yeah, Senator Stevens going on and on about a series of, the internet is a series of tubes. And it puts something in one side and then it goes through and it comes out the other side. I don't know.
569-1080, let's go to Tom. Tom, you're on.
Hey, good morning, Dan. It's Tom Wright. How are
Tom,
y'all
how are
doing?
you? I heard, I didn't see it. Bonnie saw a little bit of it, but I was told that Parnell just totally dominated last night in the Channel 2 debate.
I thought it was one of the governor's strongest performances in debate last night, and I thought he did an exceptional job. I still go back to where Mr. Walker wants to study everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'll talk about an issue, and we'll bring people to the table. We'll take a look at it. Then, to me, that's studying. He's against studies, but he wants to study all the issues before he makes a decision.
And studies are so expensive.
Yes. Well,
but
it's a lot of money.
Don't you have a sense, though, Thomas? He has an idea about what he wants to do, and he's just not going to tell us what it is until he gets into office.
Well, I think that's pretty reasonable, Glenn.
And that's because he's got people on different sides of just every single issue who they all want to hear that, oh, I'm supporting you, but they're diametrically opposed to somebody else who's supporting Walker who wants to hear, well, I'm supporting you. And so it's impossible for him to actually take a position.
Well, it's pretty hard to walk the middle.
He's trying to, though, and is that basically what Parnell's job is at this point? Dan read a bunch of numbers on the air about a lot of people don't even know what to think about Bill Walker. Well, and most of the time when you don't know what to think about him, you're going to think positive things because that's the way our society is sort of built up. But at some point, he's got to come down on issues. So is that what Parnell's job is now?
Well, it is Parnell's job to help define Bill Walker. I think we have been defining Bill Walker, but the problem is, how do you define somebody who won't take a stance on anything?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got people who support him, though, and we know what their stances are. I mean, if a candidate won't take a position, then you go to their supporters and you say, okay, well, what exactly are you looking for? Like, all of the state employees are supporting Bill Walker. So if they're supporting Bill Walker,
not true.
Yeah, no, the AFS, what was it, the Federation of State and Municipal
unions.
Yeah, but that's the union bosses. All state employees aren't supporting Bill Walker.
Okay, well, yeah, I agree with you. Their organizations came out in support of Bill Walker.
Right.
The leadership.
We clear.
Endorsed him.
Okay.
The union leadership endorsed him.
Union leadership.
Yeah.
So the question goes back to, well, we know what they want, and they don't want limited government, and they certainly don't want any fewer or less well-paid employees. So at some point, you got to call Bill Walker on, why are people supporting you when you say that you're going to get rid of their jobs?
Well, I mean, that's a contradiction in itself. Here's the man who says he wants to make 16% budget cuts. So, I mean, when you take away the formula programs that have to be funded, those 16% budget cuts are going to be pretty detrimental to people who belong to unions like ASEA and PSEA and some of the other acronyms out there.
Well, he's not going to do it. I mean, and the reality is, first of all, cutting the budget is a lot easier to say than it is to do. And I know that we're going to have to cut the budget coming up. There's just no question about it.
Well, there is no question about it. When we're looking at a deficit with oil revenues down right now, or the price of oil being down, Again, you harken back to Senate Bill 21, and it's a good thing it did pass, because right now it's around $200 million per year of what we would have, or what we are gaining, rather than losing as we would have under ACEs.
Well, you think oil prices will stay down this low and really push the budget debate along?
If I knew that, I'd be a very rich oil economist.
That's true. That's true. Well, and the likelihood is now, I mean, it seems like oil's come off of its $100 a barrel. Now it's down in the more $80 to $85 a barrel range, at least for a little while. If it does stay down there, we'll be looking at $2.5 billion deficits.
I think the latest that I heard was 1.2 billion.
1.2.
1.2, which is pretty significant. And yes, there are going to have to be reductions in the budget. You're going to have to find efficiencies. They're going to have to look at programs that may be duplicative. I mean, there's a number of things that are going to have to be examined to bring the, to have a sustainable, balanced budget.
But Walker wants to give more to education and have more Medicaid, and I just don't understand how he can cut all this stuff but then give away it all too.
Well, I also think it's interesting. I mean, a couple of points last night. He talked about issuing a disaster declaration, because of high energy costs. Well, that's fine. You can issue a disaster declaration, but what's the next step? I've never heard what his next step is going to be in issuing that disaster declaration.
So what would he mean by that? I mean, high energy prices. We've suffered under high energy prices for the last 20 to 25 years, particularly in the Bush. What would that? He just means that we want more direct support from the Fed or something?
I guess. I mean, he's never explained that. And, I find it rather disingenuous. His Medicaid expansion for a while. I'm going to do that the first day I'm in office. Well, he's got a little problem. It's called the legislature, and it's called appropriations.
Right.
Well, at some point, you guys will be judged, and your campaign will be judged on, whether or not everybody knows what it is Walker's going to do, for as much as he knows what he's going to do. Do we have any more sense about how this ticket came together, or are we totally in the dark on this?
We're totally in the dark on that. I mean, Mr. Walker claims, and I have no proof, and I don't think anyone else has any proof that he and Mr. Malott decided to join forces because it was the best way to defeat Governor Parnell. But what was said in the backroom deals, Tom Begich has admitted he's been involved. So did Mark Begich.
Well, and we know there was 4 days of negotiations going on. So I don't know if that's not a deal. I don't know what is.
You aware that Alice Rogoff has been involved in the formation of this ticket?
Well, Dan, I've heard you say that, and again, I really have no proof one way or the other.
Well, she won't return any of my calls or emails, so I'm not saying that that's guilt by not responding, but it's awfully curious that she won't respond to me when she knows why I'm contacting her.
Well, and when you own the state's largest newspaper, sometimes you just why make a story?
Yeah.
But then she'd have to be in it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thank you, Tom.
Hey, thank you, guys, and I really appreciate your work, and I truly enjoy your show. You guys have a good morning.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. 569-1080. We're going to take a break here in a minute. We've got Dr. Ilona Farr, one of our heroes, and we want to talk to her. There's so much we want to talk to her about. Obviously, the Ebola crisis, we can talk to her about that. We want to ask her about the Obamacare, and then the marijuana initiative. From a physician's standpoint, this Dr. Ilona Farr is a real hero to Glenn and I, and she has been. I don't think there's a person on the planet who knows more about Obamacare than Ilona Farr. That includes Mark Begich and, frankly, Barack Obama himself. Would you disagree with that, Glenn?
No, absolutely right. She studied it more. She's put more effort into explaining it to other people. I mean, she's got a thorough understanding.
She's next. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie. Our number 569-1080, 569-1080. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. We're streaming 1080KOAN.com. 7:44 is the time. Dr. Farr's next.
Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
You know, there are many people in Anchorage who have their own special place for gifts for occasions like Mother's Day or birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. Into Bell's Nursery and Gifts they go. And there's always something perfect. Bell's Gift Shop on Specking Road has a truly incredible selection of unique creative gift ideas. Crystal, glass, and china and flatware, a wonderful kitchen section, candles, lotions and potions, and of course delicious C's candies, and lots more. Great for browsing or finding that special gift. The Gift Shop at Bell's Nursery on Specking Road.
I'm Bill Walker, candidate for governor. Sean Parnell declared an education session with the legislature, but ended up laying off teachers. He denied health insurance to thousands of Alaskans. He drove Alaska into deficit spending, and your energy costs are still sky high. My administration will make public education a funding priority. I'll act on the recommendation of the State Chamber of Commerce and other organizations by accepting Medicaid expansion so thousands of uninsured Alaskans can have basic health care coverage as long as it's fully federally funded. I'll bring Alaskans together to solve Parnell's budget deficit mess. I know what it will take to complete a gas line to benefit all of Alaska. And until that project comes online, I'll focus attention and resources on lowering your energy costs. We're nonpartisan. We're all Alaskans. Let's work together. Alaska first. It's time.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska. My bad back loves my Craftmatic.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic bed.
My bad back loves my Craftmatic adjustable bed.
These aren't actors. They're real people who sleep better every night thanks to their Craftmatic adjustable bed. Just call 800-371-9576. That's 800-371-9576 for prices and free information on today's Craftmatic adjustable beds. Call 800-371-9576. That's 800-371-9576.
2014, Alaska's economy is picking up steam. Governor Sean Parnell has a gas pipeline project on track, signed agreements, field programs up and running, funding in place. To stop this train. Walker's plan? Well, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy election. Walker tried to stop any gas line that didn't go to Valdez. Walker's plan had no gas, no permits. Alaskans know three things about Governor Parnell. He's an honest man, keeps his word, and cares deeply about Alaska. Parnell got Cook Inlet booming, Point Thompson and a gas pipeline moving forward, 16,000 new jobs created. Walker, he'd be a governor we'd regret. Maybe not today, but soon.
Re-elect Governor Sean Parnell, paid for by Parnell Sullivan 2014 for Alaska's future.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only two candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and on...
Seven. Are we on? Yes. Hello? No?
I think you're on.
Am I on? Okay. 7:49, Fagan Biegel Body. Here's Glen Biegel. Tell us about Earhart Roofing.
Oh, man. Yeah, this time of year, you always think about it. You think, how much damage is going to be done to my roof across the wintertime? Is it going to all melt off, and then the wind's going to blow, hurricane-force winds? We just don't know what we're going to get.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, we do get them.
I know.
I've had Hurricane Force 3 winds.
Yeah, I used to live in Glen Alps.
It blew off our entire roof. And a lot of people found out, that they hadn't built their roofs to up to specification. Your roof only lasts 30 years. That was the latest technology they had, and so many houses built back in the 80s around this time, about 30 years ago. And so the best place to call, almost always the lowest price, but always the best option for you, Earhart Roofing. If you've ever seen how they operate their business, how they do their work sites, you'll know why. They were Better Business Bureau Business of the Year for 2010. Plus, latest in technology, licensed, bonded, insured. Just great folks. I hope you give them a chance to do business with you. 345-5555. That's their number.
Well, this is a remarkable woman who we've known for a long time and had her on many a broadcast. Glenn, you've had her on your old show. Dr. Ilona Farr, who is a family practitioner. The thing I pick up from her, Glenn, is that she's not just a physician who goes to work at a job. It's her calling. The way that she looks at her patients is that, it's her calling to treat them. It's not just, I'm going to work to collect a paycheck. Will you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Everything about Dr. Farr is impressive. Her dedication to this, to a free market, to making sure people are well cared for and not just another number in a government bureaucracy. A lot of people would just go along to get along. And we've been pushing doctors to accept, just don't worry about how it all fits together. Just do your job, basically, and she doesn't accept that.
And now that we live in an age in which it is okay for the IRS to target conservatives and everybody looks the other way, it adds even extra courage to what she's doing by speaking out in the way that she does. Dr. Ilona Farr joins us now by telephone. Doctor, how are you?
Good, thank you very much. Yeah, I was one that got an IRS audit.
No surprise.
And so it does, and they're going to be targeting us probably even more after this election, depending on who wins. So concerned, though, because right now with Obamacare, we're seeing 16,000 Alaskans that are going to be impacted by a 35 to 40% increase in health care costs. With Blue Cross and with MODA, it's 22 to 28%. So the premiums are going to go way up, and what a lot of these organizations are doing, now you have to go to preferred providers, and one of my patients went to a provider that she's been seeing for 10 years, and because he had not signed a contract, her deductible is now $21,000.
$21,000?
$21,000.
A deductible per year?
Deductible, yes.
So you have to run up $22,000 in bills before your insurance helps at all.
Well, it's even worse than that because they only allowed 40% of that cost to go towards her deductible. So her deductible is actually much higher than that. And then my own daughter lost her insurance. Her birthday was in April, and we assumed because of the Affordable Care Act that she would be kept on the state retirees insurance until she was 26. She lost it at 23, and we could not find insurance for her because I did not know it was coming.
Wow.
And I called Blue Cross, MODA, Aetna, couldn't find anything. Finally found a non-Obamacare policy through UAA, but that was the only thing available. She could have COBRA that, but that would have been $940 a month. And it's a month. And going through, as a student, there's no way she could afford it, and that would have just been for a short time anyway.
Our good friend Amanda Coyne, she's such a good reporter. We're big fans of hers, but she is rabidly in favor of Obamacare. And her main point is that there were so many people that did not have health insurance before that now do, and that justifies the complete upheaval of the entire healthcare industry just for those few people who did have insurance. What would you say to that?
I would say that that's not true. A lot of people lost their insurance. Insurance has become a lot more unaffordable. People are being forced to pay for things that they don't need on the insurance, like, for instance, I don't need pediatric dental care. I don't need OB care. There's a lot of different things that we're being forced to pay for. And so because of all the people that lost insurance, a lot of them ended up having to go on the exchanges to get insurance. And so I've actually seen more uninsured in my patient population this year than I have ever before.
Wow. Mark Begich almost came close to a confession in his ad, which I saw this weekend, where he said on the healthcare vote, I take responsibility for my vote and I'm working to fix the health care law.
Whoa.
So it's kind of a hybrid. Hey, yeah, it ain't working perfectly, but hey, we're working to fix it.
I passed it before I knew what was in it, and now I'm going to fix it.
What do you make of that, Dr. Farr?
Well, the problem was that Mark Begich was warned by 100 physicians in a meeting that we had with him prior to it that we did not want it, and all the surveys that we took got to his office before the vote. He did not listen to us. He personally emailed me, one of his staffers, and said when I emailed him a survey that I had done in a 2-minute video on Obamacare, he said this is an inappropriate use of Senate resources, and that's the type of senator that we have, and that's why we need to vote somebody else into office.
But don't you think, Mark Begich being a left-of-center guy, you're just an evil, greedy doctor. All you want to do is fatten your pocketbook. Why would he listen to any physician? Isn't kind of that the way the left looks at physicians?
Unfortunately, yes, and unfortunately they're destroying our system of health care. By putting the insurance companies and the government in charge, it's going to limit services for people. We already saw a 10% decrease in reimbursement rates by Blue Cross last year, plus another 10% because we can no longer bill those labs through the office, which means patients have to come back a second time to go over things. Aetna is now getting into the act and decreasing our reimbursement rates 10% this coming year. So basically what's going to happen is you're going to drive private physicians out of practice, and there's kind of an interesting article that occurred in JAMA, and it basically said private physician-owned groups are 10% less expensive than hospital clinics.
Wow.
So,
hey, Dr. Farr, it's Glenn.
Talking to Dr. Ilona Farr, who is an expert on Obamacare and other things. She's a local physician here in Anchorage.
I've always wondered who this law was written for. I think we know who it was written by, and largely it was an insurance company-sponsored event. Why did they want to sign on for this?
Because it's government takeover. If you actually graph out what they're planning, the first step is to drive out private practitioners. They're forcing the insurance companies to take on a significant amount of risk and also people to pay for services they don't need. So eventually the goal is to drive the insurance companies and the private practitioners out of business. Then they'll go after the hospitals and it'll be government takeover. But if you actually go to the CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services website, you'll see that it says, we now are in control of Medicaid, Medicare, and the exchanges. So this is nothing more than a subtle government takeover of healthcare, not so subtle.
It's what they have in Europe, and it's what the left has always wanted in this country. It's what Ronald Reagan warned us about in the 60s. Socialism will come to this country through the medical sector.
And that's exactly what Hitler did, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this country. So,
and it's an easy sell. What do you want to deny people health care? What are you, some kind of barbarian?
Yep. Well, I was reading an interesting statistic that was put out by Social Security yesterday. 72% of workers make less than $50,000 in this country now.
Wow.
And they say $50,000 is the amount that you need to make to actually have a decent middle-class life. And, with health insurance premiums, one of my patients went from $299 to $799 next year for essentially the same plan. It makes it unaffordable. And I hope we have more time because I wanted to talk about the THC thing.
Absolutely. We got to take a break. We're going to continue with Dr. Ilona Farr, Fagan, Biegel, and Body, KOAN, KVNT. Stay with us.
Just a short drive from wherever you are. Get your tickets now for the Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting. There are only a limited number of tickets available, so you can enjoy a relaxed atmosphere and taste a multitude of fabulous wines. It's the 16th annual Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting at Evangelos, Saturday, November 8th from 7 till 9. This premier Valley event kicks off the holiday season. You'll have the opportunity to buy your favorites at drastic savings, but on that night only. Advance purchase is necessary. No tickets at the door. Get them now at any one of our 4 convenient, locally owned and operated tax-free locations. This event is black tie optional. The 16th annual Connect Country Liquor Holiday Wine Tasting at Evangelos, Saturday, November 8th. Keeping the valley in good spirits, yeah. Connect Country Liquor, oh yeah. KKL.
Not just talk. Hot talk. KOAN Anchorage. 95.1 FM, 1080 AM.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lisa Brady. After a controversial quarantine in a tent in New Jersey, a nurse just back from West Africa is allowed to go home. Fox News Radio's Edmund Brown with a live update.
Now, Lisa, Casey Hickox, a nurse who spent time with Doctors Without Borders in Sierra Leone and who was placed into isolation at University Hospital in Newark, New Jersey after reporting a slight fever, will be allowed to leave probably today and head north to Maine, where the quarantine rules are a bit less strict. Hickox is also planning on suing the state of New Jersey over her forced quarantine. She's hired a civil rights attorney. In all of this, Hickox stresses she's never tested positive for Ebola virus infection, and her fever has subsided, Lisa.
In the meantime, Evan, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie defending the nurse's quarantine as an effort to protect the public. A 5-year-old boy being tested for Ebola in New York City, taken to the same hospital where a doctor is being treated for it. The boy's family under quarantine as a precaution. Trying to make sense of the senseless is how one school official describes the aftermath of the school shooting Friday in Washington State, where a second victim has died. Fox News Radio's Jessica Rosenthal with more live.
Dr. Joanne Roberts at Providence Medical Center says 14-year-old Gia Soriano, who'd been injured, died Sunday. Her family said in a statement that they're donating her organs.
It will take them a long time to heal. They will never heal from this. I want to let you know also that Shay Chucklenaskett remains in critical condition.
And 2 other boys who were also injured in the shooting remain hospitalized. They were Jalen Freiberg's cousins. Witnesses say Freiberg, a popular freshman at Marysville-Pilchuck High School, shot at his friends in the cafeteria before he killed himself, Lisa.
Jessica, thanks. And a medical examiner's report just released does confirm that the 15-year-old shooter, Jalen Freiberg, did commit suicide. His death just ruled a suicide. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you've found it. Whether cruising the road with a KOAN AM Spider, pounding trails with KOAN AM ATVs and side-by-sides, or carving snow with Ski-Doo sleds, these machines are engineered to thrill and perform. During the Yellow Tag event, save up to $4,000 on select models, plus get up to a 4-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is to start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 1818 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code.
This is Dr. Ellenberg. Are you tired of taking medications? Your medications create more side effects than solutions. Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-2366 or visit us online at drellenberg.com. We can help.
This is Allison Arians. I was offended earlier this year when Mike Hawker used a picture of me in his newsletter when he knew I didn't support his actions. And now I read in the news that he's done it again with Carol Como. Shame on you, Mike. Mike claims to support education, but we know better. He broke his word to fight for full school funding, and now teachers are being laid off statewide. Our schools are suffering. Mike's got his priorities wrong, but I don't. I think integrity matters, especially when it comes to our children. That's why I'll be voting for Sam Combs for State House. Sam Combs will be a champion for education. He'll fight to fully fund our schools, and he'll respect us when he uses our pictures, because it's the right thing to do.
I'm Sam Combs. Allison's right. Integrity matters. I won't steer sole source leases to my buddies like Mike did, or let education become just another compromise. I'll fight for integrity, and I'll fight for you. I'm Sam Combs, and I appreciate your vote on November 4th.
Paid for by Sam Combs for your State House.
Here's my good friend, Keith Montronock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help.
Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
Alaska's Energy, America's Values, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com. Mark Begich is unbelievable.
Washington thinks it knows what's best for Alaska, and that's what I'm fighting against every day.
Fighting. Begich voted for all Obama's appointments, like Sally Jewell as Secretary of the Interior. Jewell immediately said no to exploration in Anwar and no to a King Cove road. Begich didn't fight Washington. He rolled over, like he rolled over for Obamacare. Now Begich is trying to duck and hide on Obamacare, on oil taxes, on cap and trade, on the IRS scandal, even on Anwar. How can you deliver Anwar, Mark, when Harry Reid says a Democrat-controlled Senate will never allow an Anwar vote? Alaskans can't trust a thing Begich says. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call, 569.
All right, welcome back to Fagan Biegel Morning Show, KOAN, KVNT. We're talking to Dr. Ilona Farr. Dr. Farr, as a physician and family practitioner, I'm very interested in your thoughts on this ballot initiative involving marijuana. The pro-marijuana people say, it's just like, might as well regulate it like alcohol. Pot's not really that dangerous. What do you say?
I think it's absolutely dangerous. We absolutely need to vote no on this. You've got to remember pot content, the THC, which is the active ingredient that causes the highs and stuff like that, used to be about 1%. Now there's stuff in the valley that they've isolated that's 35 or more percent.
Wow. So so like the pot that Glenn smoked when he was in high school, this is 35 times more powerful?
Yes. And the problem is that there's 2 components to marijuana there's a lot more, but the 2 that are focused on are the THC and the CPG. The THC is the one that gives you the high. The CPG is actually the cancer-fighting one that may help kids with seizures and may indeed have some medicinal properties, but it's been genetically bred out of the current most of the pot that's available nowadays. And they say that if it's above 12%, that you can end up with psychosis, paranoia, hallucinations. And so the stuff that is available now is a lot more dangerous. Not only that, they can now concentrate it up to 90%, which means it's incredibly addictive.
And this will all be legal.
Yes, it is. It's all legal in Colorado, and that's why they've become the kind of the drug center of the United States. So people are growing it there, doing all these products, and then they're using the black market networks to network it all over the United States now.
Well, if we were going to regulate it like alcohol? Wouldn't we have to know, just as an alcohol, you kind of know what the alcohol content of it is? Wouldn't they have to have it tested for what the THC content is?
Well, they're supposed to do that, but the problem is that they're putting it in candy forms and drink forms and everything else, and so people can go to parties, you have a thing of gummy bears there or whatever, and people can take it and not even know they're going to be ingesting it, unless it's still in the package. So it takes a heck of a lot of money to regulate these things. It's one more government bureaucracy that we're going to have to set up here. It's already decriminalized here. There's at least 400 people that are pot-carrying medicinal users of pot here in the state of Alaska. So people can already access it if they want to. The thing is, I've read various articles. Some people say there's no people in jail for marijuana related. Some people say it may be as many as 11, but it's very, very few in this state. And so we really do not need to add another layer of bureaucracy, especially because we don't know enough about it. Right now, Colorado has a 5 nanogram per ml or nanoliter, dose, but they're actually finding that 3 nanograms per nanoliter actually is what causes impairment, so they can't even prosecute people that really are under the influence. The problem is it's also stored in fat stores, so people can be impaired for days later and have no perception of it.
Wow.
In fact, they did one study of pilots where they had them do a joint when they controlled the amount of THC in it, and 24 hours later they were impaired, and none of them had a clue that they were impaired. So this is a very dangerous substance now. The poisonings in Colorado have gone from 39% to 47% that involved marijuana under 12 years of age, so a significant increase. The number of fatal accidents has increased 100% over 5 years there. There's more crime. The drug tests are turning positive more and more, and now there's a new syndrome that's associated with vomiting. So people that ingest this higher dose THC will present to the emergency room with recurrent vomiting, and they will retch and retch and retch, and the only way that it keeps it under control is by taking hot showers, and they've actually emptied entire apartment complexes of hot water now for these people that are abusing pot, which is kind of interesting.
Talking with Dr. Ilona Farr, and this is about Prop 2, which is commercializing marijuana in the state of Alaska. And my question is, so let's say this gets legalized, and I don't want to be around it. I don't want to be able to feed it to me. I don't want anybody to feed it to my children. And what are my rights under this ordinance? Do we know?
No, we don't, and that's what part of the problem is. I mean, I would be afraid if it becomes legal up here about sending my kids out trick-or-treating or having them go to parties or anything, because I think it's going to be very difficult to control it, and it could affect them because, like, for instance, you have an athlete. They go to a party, ingest some of this stuff. Remember, it stays in the hair and the urine for a long period of time.
How long?
It depends on how heavy you are, how long it stays in there, but it can be anywhere from as little as a couple of days to, actually there was one that I think 72 days was the length of time that it stayed in someone. So there was very variable.
569-1080 if you have a question for Dr. Ilona Farr, who's a family practitioner. We're talking about the marijuana proposition, which commercializes it, not legalizes it, commercializes it. Jim, you're on with Dr. Farr.
Dr. Farr, on the Ebola issue, how would you handle that? Do you have a position, say, on border closing and closing off flights that might arrive from countries that would have Ebola patients? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
I think that in the past that we've quarantined this. This is an incredibly deadly disease. Up to 25% of healthcare workers in certain parts of Liberia have died from this. It only takes 1 to 10 viral particles for people to become infected. That's why they're having to go from a level 3 to a level 4 hazmat suit. I do think that we need to quarantine these countries, make sure that we get the disease under control there. That way we can focus our efforts on those countries rather than spending a lot of money tracking down all of these people that are flying from all over and then lying about their condition.
Wow.
And exposing a lot more people, like the guy that came in from Liberia did. He didn't tell them he'd been exposed to Ebola.
I thought I read that 80% of people who contact this virus survive.
Well, it totally depends, Dan. There's anywhere from a 25% survival rate up to a 70% survival rate with this particular strain, and it depends on whether you're, again, cared for, like in the United States where we have lots of IV fluid and stuff like that, versus people who essentially receive no treatment and get dehydrated and die.
Maybe it was in the United States in particular, the survival rate was high.
Yes, and again, this is a totally new strain of Ebola. It seems to be a lot more contagious. When people cough, it probably is aerosolized, and that's why they're saying you shouldn't be within 3 feet of an Ebola patient unless you're wearing protective gear. So there's a lot of things. There was one lady that actually survived, cared for 3 of her family members. One died and she actually used trash bags on her head, a mask, goggles, and then she used like 3 trash bags on her feet and 3 or 4 sets of gloves and a raincoat.
Yeah.
And she actually managed to survive. But this is a very, very worrisome disease, and we need to be careful about it.
Dr. Ilona Farr, you're a real hero of ours. Thanks for your time today.
So vote no on the marijuana, yes on one, no on everything else, and make sure you vote for Sullivan.
There you go. Thank you, Dr. Farr. 814 Fagan Biegel Bonnie.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give them a call, 569-1080, KOAN.
If you're ready for the movies, there's just one place to go. Check out Movies.
Here, take a look. Here's a Chevy Tahoe. It's a 4x4, just $10,900. And a Hyundai Santa Fe for $59.50.
Here's a Ford Fusion, just $13,900. And here's a Ford Ranger, just $13,900.
Remember, we've got over 1,000 vehicles to choose from. Get a 4x4 for those icy roads ahead. And the best place for that is 4x4 headquarters.
And we'll take up to 3 times your PFD. And folks, don't forget your trade-in. We need your trade-in.
Push, pull, or drag it in, and you'll get top dollar.
Now's the time. Head into Giant Worthington Ford on Gamble.
04 Tahoe, 1475908. 05 Santa Fe, Q08478. 07 Ranger, 1476888. 2011 Fusion, Q2351. On approved credit, subject to prior sales. See dealer for details. Since 10/30/2014.
When you've got the best ingredients, the pizza comes out right. That's just what we're cooking for every appetite. Experience the flavor. Call us right away. 24/7. It's a pizza party day.
October is National Pizza Month. Just hearing the word pizza brings a smile to almost everyone's face. And Sicily's Pizza wants to make you smile 5 times as big with their National Pizza Month special. Get as many as 5 medium 2-topping pizzas for only $9.99 each. Whatever style you like. For fast delivery, call 333-8000 and order the Sicily's National Pizza Month special. 333-8000 or order online at SicilysPizza.com. Best ingredients, best pizza, Sicily's.
Just call Sicily's Pizza. 333-8000.
For lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the why.
When you think about better water, think gulping, like a kid again. Just like your own kids, straight from the tap without a hint of suspicion. Think ice cubes dancing in glassware, and foods rinsed in water that has itself been washed clean. When you think about better water, think Connecticut filtered water. Water without foul tastes or odors. Water that has had nearly everything removed that isn't water. Connecticut home filtration systems are tailored to your home's needs and are capable of achieving incredibly high levels of filtration. Better water. It flows from better thinking.
Your Connecticut dealer in Alaska is Alaska Pure Water. Call 563-3770, 563-3770, or stop in at 301 East International. Alaska Pure Water. That's our name, because that's what we do.
I'm a Democrat for Marty McGee.
I'm a Republican for Marty.
Tea Party for Marty McGee.
I'm undeclared, and I'm voting Marty McGee.
A chorus of voices from all walks of life is rising in support of Marty McGee. Marty is inspiring voters to stand up and say, we know he'll do the right thing. Arla Sturchalewski, Heather Flynn, Tim Steele, and 24 organizations statewide all support Marty McGee. Faye von Gemmingen is a Republican. She and her husband, Pat, an independent, both support Marty McGee.
Marty has the backbone to stand up to special interest.
He's done that in the past, and his moral compass is perfectly tuned.
I'm Harold Wolverton. Marty is the one I want to represent me.
This is Marty McGee, and I am truly humbled by the show of support for my campaign. I'll work hard in Juneau to earn your respect by being fair to all sides and really listening to what's important to you.
Paid for by Marty McGee for State House, Anchorage.
Hot Talk KM on the Talk of the Valley. We're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080 KOAN.
Dan is in the midst of looking something up.
819, Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie.
I was being deluged.
Deluge.
No, I was being deluged. We were being deluged with bad news.
E-D-D-L-S-E-E.
I think it's G-E-D.
D-E-L-U-G-E-D.
You know, Google is such an amazing... Are deluded...
No.
impose a misleading belief.
Not close.
So how do you spell delusion?
Deluge. D-E-L-U-G-E.
Yeah.
All right. Deluge is, let's see, here we go. A large amount of rain.
Well, it was raining down on us, wasn't it?
Okay, so deluge. So you're saying we're deluged.
I was being deluged with bad,
negative
bad things, and it made me more hopeful. It made me...
What made you more hopeful?
The bad news made me more hopeful. It made me say...
Made you more active.
Well, not really.
Your action is what makes you hopeful.
That's right.
Hearing bad things doesn't make you hopeful, but knowing that you can do something about it, that you're a participant
or maybe
in
not.
opposing them.
No. Maybe it was the knowing that I can't do anything about it except vote and give people my opinion.
You're back to doing something about it.
I guess.
If there was nothing you could do about it.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, though, when you're just doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are
you
feeling...
should feel like you're doing something if you just do that. Because there are some percentage of our society who they're not educated at all about anything. They don't know what they believe. They don't know what government's for. They don't know anything.
They just know they have the right to vote, so they go do it.
They go home.
Or they don't.
A lot of them don't even vote. But they just sit around and watch TV. They're consuming garbage.
Well,
24/7.
so many bad things were going on that weekend with, just making me feel defeated.
Personal things that went on were going on in your life.
In the country, I know a lot of people feel this way, and you do feel hopeless sometimes, but to me, it did the opposite. It made me want to fight, and it made me want to hang in there and do my part, get involved. So to me, some people it might make them feel hopeless and just like, oh, there's nothing I can do, and so I'm not going to do it.
Different people are motivated by different things.
That's right. To me, it made me more hopeful. I know where my hope is found. It is not in men or the country even. It's up in heaven. It's Jesus.
So how does that pertain to the delusion of bad news?
Sometimes when you're feeling as low as you possibly feel you can go, all you can do is go up. So to me, it was a hopefulness that I felt after that. I felt more
See, what I think
positive.
goes on is, Bonnie, you have a habit of returning to a core of action.
That could be.
Because I've never seen anybody as active as you on Facebook, arguing with friends. You are battling constantly, trying to figure out how to get a government which reflects your values and which reflects a limited nature, because governments can only do a very limited amount of good. So it should be limited in nature, it shouldn't be expansive. And you're out battling this out all the time.
Trying to convince people is more what
why?
I like to do.
However,
I don't know. I want them to think the way I think.
No, but why do you do that? Because that's the reason. That's really the main reason you're here.
That's true.
You caught my eye by constantly battling for things that I believe in, and so why is it? Why do you do that? Because most people, a lot of people agree with you, but they would never dream of putting anything controversial on their Facebook page because they don't want to offend. What motivates you to do that?
I've kind of lost the. I don't know how to put it, but I just don't care anymore. And it's not in a bad way.
What?
See, I think that has really annoyed you.
What?
I don't care what people think.
About you?
Pretty much. And I've lost some friends over it. They either love me or they hate me or they just disagree with me and don't want to hear it. Yeah. And it's hard because I'm a very sensitive person. I want everybody to like me.
It's not that you don't care. It doesn't bother you. That's what you mean.
Well, and maybe it does.
The fact is that if somebody's going to disagree with you politically about something you care about and believe in, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the end of the world. It's not that they may not love you. It's just that they don't want to debate you or engage in this discussion. And that's okay that they don't want to do that because that's what you want to do.
Well, and sometimes you'll say, oh, well, they must not have been
it's not that you don't care at all.
Right.
That's just such a horrible phrase. And I know that's what comes to mind, but it doesn't bother you the fact that somebody will defriend you if they disagree with you politically because you have something important This is your platform to do it. This is where your discussion happens. This is the town square. This is the debate forum that we have.
I see our country going in a direction that I don't like, and I don't want my kids to have to deal with.
But you care.
And so
it's not that
I
you
see
don't
the
care.
freedoms
You care
going
deeply.
away, and to be able to talk about religion and our beliefs, you have to have freedom to do that. And so with every person who gets in there, but be they Republican, Democrat, whatever, when they start taking away my freedoms, that will impact my kids' ability to talk about religion and to spread the good news. And to me, that is
And
key.
even to believe
That
the
is
good
key.
news, not even to spread. They
Right.
are going to strip away. Mark Begich and his friends, Prop 5 is a great example here in the city of Anchorage, was an ordinance that Mark Begich wanted to pass, which would literally have stripped people from their ability to be offended by somebody who was dressed in the leggings, stockings, and high heels and a bad makeup job, and they're male. And they go in and they want to make out with somebody else in the middle of your, of your restaurant. Look, we are allowed to be offended by that because it's an offensive act. And Mark Begich wanted to strip that from people. They want to strip your ability not to spread the good news, to believe the good news, which is being stripped from so many people as you go through schools today. I mean, do you really respect authority? Do you really respect yourself? Do you really think how great this country has been and what a positive aspect it's been to this world? I mean, there are so many aspects of conservatism that the left doesn't want to debate. They just want to make illegal, and then we'll live in a perfect society in a perfect world, and we'll live without conservatives.
It's funny listening to you talk, Bonnie. It reminds me of two things that I think that are so true. Two points. And the first point would be, you really will never make any difference in your culture until you get to the point where you don't care about what people think about you. You're just gonna you will not leave an imprint on this planet until you get to that point, and you're there. That's point number one. Point number two, you really will never influence people unless they know you care about them. In my group of friends, I have some friends, like there'll be a couple of guys in there. I know the guy doesn't like me. He just doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guys are my friends in my circle. I know they just love me, and that we're very close. The guy who loves me can say the exact same remark as the guy who I know doesn't like me. The guy who doesn't like me, when he says the exact same thing as the guy who likes me, it will cut, because I know he meant to hurt me.
Right.
And there's something about finding a way to care about people. Step one, I don't care what you think about me. This is what I believe to be true. Step two is, I'm telling you this because I really care about you and I want you to know about this. If you can't get to either one of those places in life, you're really never going to have an impact in this world.
I agree with that. And maybe when I debate and try to convince people, it doesn't come across, but that's how I feel. This is going to impact our future, our lives, your ability to speak freely about something, even if you're trying to say you're tolerant or whatever, it will impact your ability to speak about something and mine.
It's funny because let's look at both truths here again. One, I don't care what people think about me. That's pretty obvious because you're going to go forward and you're going to say what you want to say. But the second thing, whereas I care about you, that's why I'm telling you this, that's very easy to tell, because how do you react? Like when I was on my old show, I would scream and yell at people and hang up on them. I didn't give a rat's ass about them. I just wanted to make sure they knew I was right, but I didn't care about them.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you become influential and honestly change hearts, sorry, Glenn, is you care about them, and they know you care about them. You listen to them. You're polite with them. Well, Joe, I understand why you might say that. I can see how you might say that, but listen to me. I really disagree. That's the difference in the dialogue. And I don't get any of that on conservative talk radio. Anywhere. Do you ever hear a conservative talk radio show say to a liberal caller, I can see your point. Maybe Mark Medved. But most of it, look, you're brainwashed. You dumbass. You left us. And that's why this country, we're not persuading people, because we're not caring about them. It's got, look, what's the number 2 commandment other than loving God with all your heart? Love your neighbors yourself. We got to start caring about people. We got to somehow figure out a way to care about people. If you really want to persuade people, you got to start there. And then you got to not worry about what they think about you. 829.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Local news brought to you by Jansen Funeral Homes. Jansen's Evergreen Memorial.
I'm Chuck White. The federal government is now recognizing gay marriage here in Alaska. That story from Ann Kendon.
Alaska's on a list that also includes Arizona, Idaho, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Wyoming that now has recognition from the federal government for same-sex marriage. That means spouses are now eligible for any federal benefits that may apply, such as Social Security and veterans benefits. State officials are still attempting an appeal, but...
An inmate at Ketchikan Correctional Center is back in custody after a brief escape at a courthouse. Officers say 26-year-old Tiffany Martinez. Finally, former Governor Sarah Palin turned to Facebook to officially announce her endorsement for independent gubernatorial candidate Bill Walker. That's your Hot Talk News update.
Clouds will give way to sunshine for today, high 31. Cloudy and cold for tonight, low 14. Partial sunshine tomorrow, high 30. Tuesday night, low 14. Wednesday, clouds and sunshine, high 31. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Hot Talk breaking news and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Hey folks, this is Chris and Brock from The Beer Show. Make sure to listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on 95.1 and 1080 KOAN.
The Beer Show is brought to you proudly every single week by Humpy's Great Alaska Nail House, Brown Jug Alaska, Great Artisan Beverages, and the Odom Corporation. Always drink responsibly.
1850.
A better life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, and I have tips to help you navigate the cereal aisle. First thing to do, ignore health claims on the front of the box. Go straight to the nutrition panel and look at the sugar content first. If a cereal says it has 10 grams of sugar, but the serving size is 30 grams, that means it's 1/3 sugar. That's essentially breakfast candy. Also be wary of cereals that say made with whole grain. Ingredient. And since most people fill their bowls with more than one serving size, choose cereal with no more than 250 calories and at least 3 grams of fiber. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
The event you've been waiting for is here. Lumber Liquidators' 3rd annual full flooring yard sale. It's your chance to get first quality, full warranty, direct from the mill flooring at unbelievable closeout prices. Like oak laminate for an incredible 19 cents a square foot, and pre-finished 3/4-inch solid maple for just $149. Plus beautiful bamboo for 63% less than other stores. Take advantage of our 20 years of savings with 20-month special financing and get even more unheard-of flooring deals in our stores. Full flooring yard sale is Thursday through Monday only. Visit lumberliquidators.com to find a store near you.
The flu, pneumonia, whooping cough, hepatitis A, shingles, meningitis, tetanus. That's a scary list. But did you know immunizations can protect you from every one? You didn't? Well, we do. Rite Aid pharmacists are certified to immunize against the most common preventable diseases. Find out what immunizations you need with a free immunization evaluation at Rite Aid today. With us, it's personal. Availability and age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacists for details.
When I grew up, I want to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, Country Financial helps you and your family grow your own way.
Or maybe a veterinarian.
A mom, a doctor, and president of the United States. Maybe an astronaut or, an Olympic gymnast.
You can grow your own way. We know some dreams take a little longer to achieve, which is why your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything. From auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream.
Or maybe an accountant, like my dad.
For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Glen Biegel, you have beautiful teeth.
Why, thank you, Dan Fagan. That's because my family and I have gone to Dr. Dan Kiley for years.
I get scared at the dentist.
Dr. Kiley knows people like you are afraid, so he creates a relaxed atmosphere at his office. People actually like going to the dentist for Dr. Kiley.
I know it's important to have good dental health.
And you look better with good teeth. And Dr. Kiley offers cosmetic dentistry along with general care.
Visit Dr. Dan Kiley at lakeotisdental.com. Call him at 562-9209.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
And
all right, we're
here
back
we
on.
go.
Welcome back.
Here's Dan.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron here on KOAN.
Our computer blew up and I can't play any music.
KBNT. Country Financial, they have 13 locations in Alaska. Mike Daniels heads them all up. And what a heavy presence they have here in Alaska, and what a difference they've made in the lives of so many Alaskans when it comes to financial planning. It's never too early. It's never too early to start planning for your future. And matter of fact, the earlier you start planning, the better off you'll be. There are just some basic fundamental principles and truths that you need to learn regarding financial planning that Mike Daniels and his country representatives have and will impart to you, and you will be better off as a result of it, I guarantee. Country Financial, 5 locations in Anchorage, 5 locations out of the valley. Give them a call, make an appointment, the number being 866-COUNTRY, 866-COUNTRY, and country is spelled
COUNTRY.
Our number here, 569-1080, 569-1080. That's the number if you'd like to be a part of the broadcast.
I got some good news.
Okay.
Chocolate improves memory.
Oh, hey, I am on that.
We got some of the greatest memories around here. Well, this is what I thought they were going to say. Dark chocolate? Well, yeah, I mean, chocolate is really dark chocolate, so
not all. No, there's a big difference in chocolate. Like Ted Stevens, every night before he went to bed, would have a 90% cocoa piece of dark chocolate because it reduces inflammation. It increases memory. It's one of the healthiest things you can eat. Now, if you take a Hershey bar, that's 90% sugar. So the cocoa has to be outweigh the sugar.
Yeah, well, chocolate is cocoa.
Yeah, but
so you can have a dairy bar which has chocolate flavoring in it, and that's not going to be healthy because it's going to be sugary.
Right.
But cocoa. So you asked me whether or not cocoa is.
It can be bitter.
Cocoa is so bitter.
Yeah,
that's true. Anyway, well, this is where I thought they were going to say, to start with, is when you eat a chocolate bar, you remember things better, wherever you are. I was thinking, that's probably true because it's going to enliven those senses, and all of a sudden you're going to be a little more plugged into the world. And I think things are just...
That is so true. I remember
right?
eating a Snickers bar driving through the Ozark Mountains. And it was one of those frozen Snickers bars.
Oh.
They are the best.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
She just proved my point.
Oh.
That's not chocolate.
Well, have you seen those commercials?
But my memory was good.
Yeah, but that's not chocolate.
They're like playing football, and there's this cranky lady in the middle of the football game, and they're like, "Here, have a Snickers bar," and then they eat the Snickers, and then it turns into like Johnny Football.
Oh.
And it's like you're not the same when you're hungry.
But the whole point of the article is actually what Dan was saying. In case anyone needed to know the reason to love chocolate, a new study suggests that a natural compound found in cocoa, tea, and some vegetables can reverse age-related memory loss. So it's a much longer-lasting, much longer-term effects. That's good news.
I need me some of that.
Me too.
Because I'm trying to write my book right now, and on my story of my life, the story of my life, I'm trying to write my book right now. I'm 36 years old. No. I had a very interesting last 5 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am. I'm
writing a book?
Yeah, and the details start to kind of slip away unless you've written them down and you really remember them.
So what's your book about?
Probably the last 5 years of my life.
What can you give us some kind
Well, 2 years ago, we didn't have a home. We didn't have a place to be, and
you were homeless?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you live on the street?
No, but we were.
So where were
we
you?
were without home, and there was no hotels available, and
Was there ever a night where you slept outside or in your car?
maybe.
Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Is that?
It's a very good story. We thought we had a job in Casper, Wyoming, and we went there thinking we'd just stay in a hotel. And there's such an oil boom going on there right now that there was no place to stay.
So it wasn't that you couldn't afford a hotel.
No, it's just that there was nothing. And
Well, that's not the same as being homeless.
well,
It would
hotels
be
are
today.
expensive.
It would be today. I think they count that in the statistics.
Yeah, but it's not like you couldn't
If you
afford.
thought that you might be homeless, I think they count you in the statistics.
All I know is that I hadn't had a shower in like 3 days, and I walked into a State Farm building, and they looked at me like I was homeless.
Did they escort you out?
They did not want us to use their restroom.
So you could not get a hotel for 3 days because they were booked.
It was like 7 days. Yeah.
And so you slept in your car for 7 days.
It was a truck, but yes.
And just no hotels anywhere.
No
around?
hotels. There was hotels. They were not available. All the oil workers in the city.
Well, you didn't plan ahead when you left. Thinking you should book some of these rooms before you left.
We thought we'd get into an apartment. There's nothing. That's how
Wow.
good the oil is there.
Wow, we missed out on all that because of ACES
Well,
here in Alaska.
it would happen here. It would have happened
Yeah.
here.
So
for sure. Anyway, we have had a very interesting last 5 years, and I have
so
a
you
lot
went
to
7
a lot of
nights
stories.
in a car, not because you.
No. It
you-
was.
that's what
I
you
mean,
said.
it was like a few, but
Well, how
then,
many was it?
I don't want to talk about it.
When you
Here I
said
go again. I
7
don't wanna talk
nights
about it.
earlier.
Buy the book.
The book. Now, what's the purpose
was
of the
like-
book? Here's the question.
So
The
there-
question is, are you writing this book for yourself, for your kids, or for the general public?
No, it's a good it's a life lesson.
All right. Well, I'm trying to figure out what's interesting here. So far, you got a couple of nights where you couldn't. You had to
Well,
sleep in
it
your
would
car.
take 3 hours. Like it would take
No,
3
I don't
hours
think
to
it
tell.
would. Any good story you can wrap up in 12 seconds. What is it about the last 5 years, other than a couple of nights you had to sleep in a truck?
There was a lot of good things that happened through all of it. It could have been a really bad time in our lives, but it turned out to be
Give us
good
an
because
example.
we grew closer as a family. My husband quit his job with the government. I mean, it was a good job.
Right.
And he said, I cannot work here anymore. It's unethical,
Okay.
and I'm not going to be a part of this
What was unethical about it?
corrupt. Well, it's on the border. I mean, the border is
The border-
corrupt. The whole border. He
Oh,
was
in
on
Washington.
the Washington-Canada border.
What was corrupt?
The policies. They let people through that shouldn't be coming
And he
through
just-
into
he
our
didn't-
country.
He didn't like the double standard.
He said, I don't agree with them letting these people in, and I'm not going to do
So
it
he
anymore.
quit?
He quit. He just said, I'm not going to do this anymore, and he quit.
And then
And we had to go find work elsewhere, and ended up coming back here after a few months of being, out of state.
you realize that when you write this book, you're going to have to go on book tours and tell people why they should read your book.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to get out of you now. I'm not really getting that. Okay, my husband quit his job. We came home.
It's an expansive
I had
story.
I had 2 nights.
Learning.
I had 2 nights in a truck. I mean, I'm not buying I'm not buying the book yet.
okay.
You have to.
I'll
make
have to work
people-
on that.
we
I'll
have to
work on
make-
marketing.
We have to give some
gotta write
reason
it.
for people to buy the book.
He's like, don't do this.
She's
Don't tell
she's
this
gonna
story.
she's going to come up with that as she writes it. That's what I wanted to know, is who she was writing it for. Can we talk about First Lady Sandy Parnell at some point?
Sure, I want to hear about the book, but
I just want my memory to be better. That was where this was going.
Oh, okay. You're writing it down because if you don't write it down, it'll all be gone.
It'll be
Oh,
good. Just
and I
wait
had
for
one
it.
question about the chocolate.
yes,
You
go
know
ahead,
the
Brian.
Nestle Quick you put in your milk?
Yes,
Spoonfuls of that. Does that count,
that's
Glenn?
pure sugar.
No, I'm thinking it counts half. What do you
Okay.
think?
No.
Sugar probably makes you
So if
forget
I-
things.
If I
Yeah.
eat twice as much,
No.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm on board with that, Brian. I'm for that.
You know, in this fantasy baseball league that I was in for years, every year the champion would get Yahoo poured on them.
Ew.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh.
sticky.
Yeah,
And it was chilly too, because the champion would be in October.
sticky situation.
We'd go by the little creek and by the peanut farm. Have it-
Campbell Creek?
No, peanut.
Is that it?
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about Sandy Parnell?
Well, my question is rather a deep one here, and that is the treatment of women in politics. So Amanda Coyne had done an interview with Sandy Parnell and stayed away from all things political. So they talked about family, and they talked about faith, and they talked about this, that, the other thing. And so what she has today, and I'm just wondering if I don't think it's meant to be offensive, because I don't think Amanda's trying to offend people, but I kind of take offense at the article myself just because it seems dismissive. And I want to know whether or not other people agree or disagree. So
we got to wrap up. He's going frantic in there. We'll
right.
take a break. 8:44.
Right back.
Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
Hi, my name is Mike Ferris, president of Alaska Enterprise Solutions. We are the face of Xerox in Alaska. Xerox is a trendsetter, and AES Xerox is following in those footsteps. We are the document management experts, specializing in short-term rentals of copiers and scanners. We have offices in Anchorage and Fairbanks, and we are your Xerox professional agency with an Alaska focus and worldwide support. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
I'm Bill Walker. A recent poll found that 55% of Alaskans think I am the candidate for governor most likely to get construction started on a gas pipeline, versus only 33% who thought it was Sean Parnell. Now that makes sense. Parnell doesn't seem to know what project he supports. Until recently, he was pushing for a gas pipeline through Canada. 2 years ago, he was all for a small diameter pipeline. Now in a pre-election epiphany, he's finally decided he supports a large diameter LNG project. On the other hand, I have long advocated for an LNG project at Tidewater. I know the players, I know the markets, I know what it takes to get a project underway. As governor, I will see an LNG project started and finished. As for the other guy, who knows what project he'll be supporting 2 years from now. As governor, I will finish the job. Alaska first, it's time.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska.
Hi, Tom Bodette. You know, mobile phones have come a long way. You can do anything now, like book a room at Motel 6 by logging on to motel6.com through your web browser. You can even pay using Google Wallet through the site. Pretty nifty stuff. Mobile phones are also great for taking selfies, but keep it clean, folks. That stuff always gets out. Or, so I've heard. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
6 years ago, we took a chance on Mark Begich. Begich promised us he'd be an independent voice for Alaska. Instead, he's voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time for Obamacare, waste. Begich promised to is still closed to exploration, and Begich stood by as Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska. Instead of taking responsibility for his failures and broken promises, Begich is running a vicious campaign with attacks called some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. We gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us a record of Obamacare, wasteful spending, and broken promises. We can't afford 6 more years of Mark Begich. Alaska needs a change. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Paid for by Glenbrook State House Committee, Anchorage.
Energy and commitment for Northeast Anchorage. That's Max Gruenberg. For us, he's the next best thing to being a legislator ourselves.
Hi, I'm Max Gruenberg. I'm proud to represent you in the Alaska Legislature, and I'm proud of what we've done together. I go to our community councils, to our schools, and to your doors. When you speak, I listen.
When I asked you to protect our elders, you passed the Silver Alert Bill. That will help us locate missing seniors and other vulnerable adults.
When I asked you to make our streets safer, you authored the laws that prohibited viewing DVDs and texting while driving, and got funding to build a new sidewalk on Boniface.
And Max helped us get 2 new fire stations and a rescue boat in Cook Inlet.
And when we wanted to be sure there was a warm place for our pets at the animal shelter, you helped make it happen.
I'm Max Gruenberg. I'd like you and your pets' support on November 4th.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. 11 minutes ahead of 9 o'clock as we close out the broadcast on this Monday, the 27th of October. Whew. Senate candidate Dan Sullivan's on the line. How are you, sir?
Dan, hey. Great. I'm doing great. Glenn, Bonnie.
Hello.
Good morning.
Great.
Hey. How are you guys?
We're well. We're great to hear your voice, and thanks for calling in.
We have been give you a quick update from the campaign.
Sure.
We have been campaigning literally every corner of our great state. No kidding. Catch can to barrel, everywhere in between, and we've had some good debates. Hopefully, you got to view a couple last week with Mark Begich. Had a debate with him and Kenai, Soldotna, had a debate in Anchorage, RDC, Anchorage Chamber, Alaska Forestry Association, and in AFN. And I think, the one issue that we're now talking about is, I think as Alaskans, sometimes we don't think our vote matters on big national issues. 3 electoral votes, not always a critical role on presidential elections. This election matters. It's very likely the direction of the state, direction of the country is going to be determined by what we do. If we're, and I always say we because I'm a big believer that campaigns are team sports, not I sports. Beat Mark Begich, it's very likely to be flipping the control of the U.S. Senate. Harry Reid. That's going to be huge for the country, huge for Alaska, and we're now just working a couple more debates with Begich this week, and we're just telling everybody, get the vote out. This election really matters.
What do you see in polling-wise?
We've been up consistently in the polls, every either public or private poll that we've seen. Some are, stronger than others, but I keep telling my team, and I'm certainly doing it. If you saw my schedule, I'm running like I'm 20 points behind, right? Not 1 minute of the day.
Well, we keep hearing about the Begich ground game and that's going to make a big difference. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have a great ground game, and they talk about their ground game. This is kind of Mark Begich's shtick, right? He talks a lot. He puts out bills. He puts out press releases. But the record's very, very weak. As a matter of fact, the record is with Obama and Harry Reid, a loyal foot soldier. He's trying to, walk away from that record. And now they talk about the ground game. We are quietly putting together a ground game, if you look at the statistics, that is very impressive. But we're not out there talking about it. We're just executing. Dan, I think you guys saw it, even in the primary, our ground game was tremendous. And it was all volunteers. It was, we're very proud of that, and we're working it hard.
I got to meet your wife for the first time last week.
Yeah.
She was.
She told me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very lovely gal.
Hey, look, my wife is out there campaigning either with me or on her
against
own.
you.
And if you see her, she's a woman of grace and dignity and smart. And
very impressive.
A great asset.
And we're on with Dan Sullivan. He's running for the Senate. The AFN just came out, and my understanding from the back rooms was this was a close vote.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I want you to tell me about it. How do you think they decided? They don't come out and endorse people for Senate very often. This obviously they want a Democrat in there for some reason. I want to get your take on
and
why.
They endorsed Begich, your opponent. Go ahead.
Yeah, but look, here's the one thing on that, and you guys, and I'm glad you, and please, you guys know better than to kind of get your sense of what's really going on from the newspapers. They're not always accurate, but Begich has been going around telling people that he's got the native vote, quote, locked up. And I just think that's an insult to people. That's an insult to Alaska Natives. My wife didn't get that memo, or my daughters didn't get that memo about it being locked up. Neither did my mother-in-law, one of the most, well-respected Alaska Native elders in the state. So they pushed for an endorsement, but it was a huge debate on the floor. And there were several important regions of the state that either didn't want to get behind Begich or abstain, some of the most important. And it certainly showed that he doesn't have the native vote locked up. And then, I went and debated him on issues where, again, he talks this big game, right, about getting all this done. And then when you actually just go a little bit below the surface, he's gotten very little done for Alaska Natives.
Well, he didn't have a
Alaska.
single bill passed. You know, up until recently when he had a 100-0 bill passed. It was about military pay. I'm sure Reed just wanted him to have a little feather. You know,
That's
not that
right.
it's a bad bill, but he also has never gotten anything proposed or accepted on the floor of the Senate. I mean, honestly, I don't know how anybody could say Mark Begich has been effective.
Well, and then the other thing, at least in our debate on the AFN debate, which I don't know if you had the opportunity to see that, but again, I was hitting on my record, which I'm very proud of, solid record as Attorney General, Commissioner of Natural Resources on a whole host, but very different, right? Not. I think he's put forward well over 250 bills, as you mentioned. 250, and 2 have become law.
Wow.
You compare that to Stevens' first term or Lisa Murkowski's first term, it's not even close. But he'll do things like he was railing against this violence against women. There's a Section 910 that some of the Alaska Native community is doesn't agree with. He rails against that. What he fails to tell people is he was one of the original co-sponsors of that. So this is kind of the smoke and mirrors that I think Alaskans are starting to get tired of. And, as I like to say, there's also a tale of two campaigns going out there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but last week Time Magazine and the LA Times, not necessarily big, strong Republican supporters, put out their version of what they saw as the worst, most dishonest attack ads of the cycle.
Yeah.
And this is the entire country.
Right.
And Alaska's junior senator won the award.
Yeah.
Right? So
It was despicable, really. What?
Not really kind of making Alaskans proud. And he's running ads that, it's the campaign of scare. Right. Dan Sullivan wants to take away Social Security.
Yeah.
Dan Sullivan wants to take away your hunting and fishing rights. And the latest one, I guess he's trying to tie me to the National Guard scandal, which is just despicable.
Unbelievable.
And
Dan
Sullivan's
our guest. He's running for Senate.
What's the priority when you get there? When you're elected, what's the first thing you want to do when you get there? I'm just curious. Like, I'm hopeful for you to get there, and I'd rather you be there than Mark Begich. So I'm just wondering, what's your priority when you?
Well, Bonnie, we've been talking about, and I think this is something when you're on a campaign trail and you see this issue, it can even sound boring, but rolling back this regulatory overreach that is the federal government is in every part of Alaskans' lives, whether it's private, business, whether it's, you can't even get a dock built next to your cabin. It takes 2 years for a Corps of Engineers. It's the number one issue, rolling back the Obama administration's federal overreach. And there are many, many ways to do that. That, to me, is number one, the regulatory overreach, which is not only stifling economic opportunity, as I've been saying on the campaign trail, it goes to the individual liberty interest of Americans. I mean, when Obamacare passes with 2,100 pages, that's the law, which nobody read. But what a lot of people miss, the implementing regs on Obamacare were 22,000 pages long.
Wow.
If you stacked it, 8.5 by 11, stacked it, it would be 9.5 feet tall.
Amazing.
And as I tell people, guess what? The agencies don't know what's in there. The senators, certainly, who gave the agencies authority to do that, don't know what's in there. But guess who is required to understand it and implement it? We, the people, Alaskans, Americans, and it's crazy.
Dan, we're out of time, but I appreciate your call. Thanks for checking in with us.
You guys, I'll check in before, but like
Please
I said,
do.
we are everywhere. Heading to Fairbanks today, was in the valley.
Excellent.
And Eagle River over the weekend, AFN. It's going great, but just want to encourage everybody. Your vote matters. The direction of the country is at stake. Retire Begich, retire Harry Reid, and we can start turning the direction of America around.
Dan Sullivan, Senate candidate. Thanks, Dan.
Hey, guys, good to hear your voice.
All right, great. We'll see you tomorrow, folks, 6 a.m. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie.
1080 AM and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Hi, this is Jonathan Martin at Harrington & Company. Sellers, if you are going to sell your home, now may very well be the best time. The current interest rates are still very low in comparison to previous